We'll now call this meeting to order. Juanita, take the roll, please.
Randy Brockway.
Here.
Lisa Gaynor.
Here.
David Kadama.
Here.
Rachel Morello.
Here.
Michael O'Brien.
Here.
And Arthur Perry.
Present.
Mary Rose Mangia.
Here. Let's all rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. I'm now going to open the part of the agenda for public comments or statements. And we're going to ask that if you have a public comment that you identify yourself by name and address and be brief, and we will limit comments to no more than 5 minutes.
There's nobody signed in.
All right, so nobody's part. Thank you. Nobody has signed up for public comments, so we will move on with addressing the public comments from the last meeting. And I'm going to defer to Bhavna and ask her to address those.
We had 3 public comments. One of them was from Mrs. Laube. She is a Blythe Park parent regarding the sign-in and sign-out procedures for lunch. And so we addressed that it was going to be something that we're going to continue to monitor, and the principal and the staff are doing that. So that is in your board packet, as well as a comment from Mrs. Roebling in regards to occupancy permits for our new construction and our Hauser multi-purpose room. That has been addressed. And there was a public comment from Mrs. Gill regarding questions at the Finance Committee. That also has been addressed in regards to how we are evaluating programs and extra duties. And then there was one more comment, from the previous board meeting from Mr. Jerry Buttimer in regards to some of the lighting fixtures in the Hauser gym. And Ramesh Nair, our owner's representative, addressed that with Mr. Buttimer and also provided a written statement that's in your board packet.
Can you just point us to where that is?
Sure, right under public comment and response, you'll see the 3 responses.
Okay.
You said that the response to Jerry Buttimer, is that in addition to the 4 and different from the one under F?
Under FOIA, yeah.
Under the FOIA requests?
I'm sorry, is it under FOIA? It was asking the same question,
okay.
So I think it was the restatement of the letter from
Okay.
Mr. Nair.
Right.
All right. Thank you, Bhavna. And then I'm also going to ask you if you could address the status of the FOIA request, but the one that's important would be, that we're really interested in, is the request from the 5 Essentials report. Explain the value of that program and how it's being implemented in the district.
5 Essentials was a survey that the University of Chicago put together in cooperation with the state last year. It was asked that all districts be required to give it to staff and students in grades 6 through 8. I understand that wasn't done at all the district schools last year. Only some schools did it, and some of the students in 6th through 8th did it. And then when it was made available on the website, parents could access it. So some parents did do that. It looked at 4 areas of effective leadership, collaborative teachers, involved families, and supportive environments, as well as ambitious instruction. So going forward, we had a FOIA from Mary Jo Roebling as to what our results were. We provided her with the executive summary. The results were incomplete because not all 5 schools participated. So we gave her the executive summaries. Like I said, that was incomplete. So I've provided that response for you, as well as an overview of what the 5 essentials are. Going forward, next spring, we will make that a district requirement that all 5 schools will be asked to take to take the survey for staff, as well as students in grades 6 through 8. It's 6 through 12 right now, but 6 through 8 is it's applicable to our district. And we'll also make it available to all parents on the website and put out communication so they can also assess our progress in those things. And I think I shared that with you in our action planning, that that's going to be one way that we're going to measure parent and staff feedback on the programs that we're implementing.
And students are doing it online as well?
Yes.
It's all
Yes,
Are
it's
they-
all online.
Are they
Only
doing it during
6 through
class
8.
time?
6th, 7th, and 8th grade.
I mean, right, but there's no, the K through 5
Right.
students are not asking to have not
Right.
been asked to participate due to survey structure.
Correct.
And is it a
But then-
survey that they use, is this program in place every year, or is it something?
It just started last March. It started
Okay.
last March, and so, and we're going to talk about this at the Education Committee on October 1st. And we're going to kind of provide you with what the new school report card's going to look like, because this data will be shared on the school report card, and our data won't be coming back incomplete.
But just as clarification, so this is for just 6 through 8?
It's 6 through 12
Six-
statewide.
I mean, well, for
but
us, for 6
it's
to 8.
6,
But you
7,
were
and
talking
8.
about all 5 schools.
Only,
Only Hauser will do 6th, 7th, and 8th grade
Okay.
students.
Students.
And
Students.
staff will be at all 5 schools.
Staff
And-
at all staff
Right,
at all.
and it will be open to parents at all 5 schools next spring.
What do we mean by open to parents?
It will be available on our websites.
Okay, so the reports.
Right.
and that was not what happened last spring. It was
Yeah,
not open
it's-
to all parents at all schools.
Well, last
or-
year, it was voluntary for parents. It wasn't required for parents, but it was required for staff
Mhm.
and for students, and that was not made a district expectation.
And so how do you make it mandatory for parents? Is that what you said?
Well,
You
it's.
can't.
You
You
can't.
can't.
I
You
mean-
have to make it, you have to make it
Make it
accessible.
available.
Accessible, so
for
that's
parents.
why, what you're referring to, is just
Correct.
that there wasn't accessibility, so that's the piece we're gonna improve.
Right, and some parents found it, for example, Mrs. Roebling, and she completed it, so she wanted to know what the results were.
Right, thank you, and I guess I just want to affirm on behalf of the board that the board does support district-wide implementation of, and district-wide accountability of the 5 essentials programs, that all teachers participate at all schools, and assist in the, assist the students in participating and also communicating with parents on their participation. So thank you. Couple.
Do you want me to go over the other ones or no?
Yes,
Okay.
please.
And then we received a FOIA request from Bob Skolnick in regards to the copies of the emails and correspondences with Mini Electric and the district. That has been provided, as well as Jerry Buttermer in regards to the Mini Electric situation at Hauser and all the correspondences and how the situation has been addressed. So all that information is in your packet.
Thank you. I have a couple of quick announcements. I'd like to announce that Juanita Patton, who is sitting here at the table with us, is being named as our Secretary Pro Temp and to the Riverside District Board of Education. And also, for everyone, the Riverside District 96 2013-2014 budget is posted on the District 96 website, and a public hearing will be held on October 15th to discuss for the public. Right. Again, I would like to ask for a motion to approve the meetings of the minute meetings of previous board meetings and committee meetings. So the ones that we're dealing with are listed on the agenda. The minutes of the special board meeting, that was our Saturday meeting of July 13th. The minutes of the closed session of that same meeting, July 13th. The minutes of the regular business meeting of August 20th, and the minutes of the closed session meeting of August 20th.
So moved.
And
Second.
So on the minutes of the regular meeting, did you say that included
Right.
August
the
20th?
Yes.
I would like to request a correction to the minutes on the vote on the classroom overrides. I would like it to reflect that I did not voice a vote on that item.
Okay.
I would also like to make a comment, same vein. I did not voice a vote. I would have voiced a no vote if I had the opportunity to voice the vote. I believe the motion carried it, but we did not have an opportunity, or I did not have an opportunity to speak what I would have spoke because we moved right along. So I would like a reflection as well.
And my vote would have been an abstention on that vote.
All right, then, I guess what we're moving for then is approval of the minutes of the special board meeting of July 13th and the closed session of that same date, to table the approval of the minutes pending a correction or a clarification of the vote, vote on the class size policy, and also approving the minutes of the closed session of the meeting for August 20th. So I guess restating that, I am asking for a motion for approval of 3 sets of minutes.
1, 2, and 4, right?
Yep, items 1, 2, and 4 on the agenda, and tabling item number 3 pending correction.
So moved.
Second.
Voice vote.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right. Next, we'll have some presentations, and I'd like to introduce Tom Jacobson of Client First Technology. He's going to talk to us about the technology infrastructure assessment, and just to clarify, he is with Client First.
Good evening. I got some technology to set up here for a second, this is the first part of every technology presentation, is stump the technology guy.
Yeah.
Okay.
Here comes Matt. He'll help you.
Okay. Hey, Matt. Hello. Okay, cool. I need to speak into the microphone.
Doesn't matter.
You should position the microphone so it can pick you up. First thing on the audit is if there's an instantly turn on, right?
Well, it would certainly go in the budget. No, I got a person. Okay. I think that's really close enough for me. Okay, information. My name is Tom Jacobson. I'm a principal with Client First Technology Consulting, and I'm here today to give you a quick information technology assessment overview. Again, quick agenda. This is mandatory in every presentation. Our firm has offices in California, North Carolina, and Schaumburg, Illinois. And below are some of our school district clients around the Chicago area. I'm the network services manager for Elgin U46 School District. We do quite a bit of work for Naperville 203 and Indian Prairie 204. We also do all the IT for the village of Riverside. So we're local to you. One of the key things about our firm is we believe that in 2 things that are really key. One is it's a business management approach. The idea is to help you make business decisions about technology. We're not going to go into acronyms and talking mumbo jumbo. We want to make it clear to you what we're presenting and how that affects you and your goals, which is to teach students. Technology is a tool. It's not a solution unto itself. We're independent. We don't resell anything. We've done lots of projects, and that's what these slides show. We've got lots of certifications. In an IT assessment, we're really talking about IT management, communications management, and the 2 kind of left columns, user support, desktop management, office productivity, things like that, peripherals, smart boards, things in the classroom, and the operations thereof. And the center row column is infrastructure. It's the things that connect the buildings together, email, the file servers, internet connections, and all those kinds of things. And they're all supported by some sort of support function, help desk and webmaster. Security is always key in any organization. You have to buy software and manage assets over the course of the time. We don't spend much time in this project on the business application side. It's really more of an infrastructure operational look. In our discussions earlier with the district, we developed a list of questions to answer, and those include, is the IT function capable of supporting the curriculum both today and in the future? Will upcoming online testing and increased wireless usage be easily supported by the district? When I talk to IT folks around the Illinois area, the real answer to that is nobody really knows. People but people are expanding their capabilities dramatically to support online testing. Do IT operations methodologies function according to best practices? Are current staffing levels and skill sets meeting the need? This involves, are staffing levels sufficient to meet the needs of teachers, students, and administration? I'll take a quick look at the recent building construction to make sure that meets IT's best practices. We'll look at expenditures over the next 5 years. One of the major outputs of this is a 5-year spend plan, which might include audiovisual improvements to this room, which would include a 5-year capital replacement plan. So how you roll through your technology and upgrade it based on kind of industry standards for how quickly tablets, laptops, servers, infrastructure is replaced. And is student access limited to those areas that support the curriculum? In other words, can students get to the things that they need, but actually not to the things, and not to the things they don't need to see? Proposed methodology is very, very in-depth and detailed. We collect all the documentation, policies and procedures that the district is happy to send us, interview staff in detail, and talk to people in technology curriculum. We physically do some hands-on work with the network and servers to verify performance. This sometimes leads us to find interesting problems that need long-term fixes. We look at security, backup systems, and disaster recovery. And then I think we've talked about most of those others. After we've done all those things, on the first slide, we go away, formulate our recommendations, priorities, and budgets. Now, we then bring those back to the district and the IT staff in the way of recommendations. And we have a workshop, which is really actually the most fun of the whole thing. And we go through our thoughts and ideas on what the priorities ought to be and discuss them with staff. At this point, what we're really doing is working together to come up with the right set of recommendations from our perspective and the district's perspective. At the end of the day, this should not be the consultant's plan, it ought to be the district's plan. That's the goal. Something that the district has and can implement it over the next 5 years. So there's a lot of give and take in the workshops, a lot of discussion, especially related to why we chose a certain path and not another path. We talk about pros and cons, how much some things cost, how much other things cost, and we make decisions jointly in those things. We talk to the IT team first. We come back and talk to the superintendent and senior management team after we've kind of coalesced as a core team, and then we can talk to you folks if you desire. We modify priorities based on feedback, and then we develop final recommendations in the presentation. Deliverables, kind of a whole slew of deliverables that we talked about. Kind of initially, recommendations on staff expertise and readiness. If there are gaps in staff expertise, we recommend filling those in many ways, either outsourcing or training plans or new positions or restructuring of positions, however is going to best serve the district. Use of technology in the classrooms, alignment with curriculum. We talked about priorities and budgets. Again, the output really is, one of the outputs is a 5-year budget and plan. You folks earlier had a discussion about, policies and procedures. We look at standards and try to lift you up to industry best practices if necessary. Network performance, if there's any improvements to be made. One of the things that's becoming more and more important to districts as you move forward is reliability and resiliency of IT systems. As technology becomes more integrated in the classroom, really you need the internet to work really all the time during the day. If you have a problem in the computer room, you're not going to send the kids home. They're going to stay in the classroom. So you really need things to work all the time. And we look at security and then recommendations related to documentation.
And Tom, can I just ask, if the internet's not working all the time, you'll be able to share with us why it's not working, because you'll have done the assessment of like our servers and our system.
Yeah, we'll be able to help you with that.
Okay.
We do, one of the things we do quite a bit of is procurement of internet technology for districts. We did both cooperatively and independently. We spend a lot of time with the various internet service providers in the marketplace. And because we represent some of the larger school districts around, we know we have the right phone numbers. Approach can be transformational. The ability of our staff to work with your staff and develop recommendations and a vision going forward can really kind of excite everyone and get people moving forward in a nice way. Again, it's a business management and a technical approach, and everything's developed in partnership. Any other questions?
I do have a question. Generally for your school district clients, do they already have a set curriculum technology program in place? Because we're kind of in the process of evaluating our own, and we don't know which would come first, this technology audit you're proposing, or we'd have to look at our curriculum technology program first.
It's a chicken or the egg thing, yeah.
Right, exactly.
Yeah. Actually, as we were working with the district, we talked about and proposed both. Because, you really, so here's the way I look at it. Let me just stop it. The way I look at it is the technology infrastructure is foundational to whatever's going to go on in the classroom. And if you build that correctly, you can put whatever pieces you want to on top of it and build the curriculum based on that. But without the proper foundation in the core technology area, like a solid internet connection or a computer room that's going to always work for you, working on curriculum doesn't do you any good because the stuff below it isn't working right. Does that make sense?
That makes sense.
I have a question. I heard you mention workshops. Can you describe what what the workshop looks like, the amount of time involved, what kind of staff is involved in these workshops?
Yeah, usually, well, they vary very much depending upon the district. One of the slides I had up was for Orland Park High School District. The workshop there was about 15 major areas of emphasis. Network reliability, capital replacement, things like that. And actually, in that workshop, it was, I talked to people from all the disciplines, people from the buildings, people from IT. Everybody was in the single workshop, and it lasted about 2 hours. And it's mostly bullet points and some graphs, and we work through these things and we talk about why we recommend things, and then it becomes a kind of a discussion.
Okay. Are there surveys as part of these workshops?
We've already done interviews,
Mm-hmm.
so we've already talked to everybody. By that time, we have everybody's views. We know them all.
Mm-hmm.
We'll ask questions because there'll be things that we didn't ask, or as we walked through things, as we thought through them, we thought, what do you really want to do about this or that? So, but not really surveys at that point.
Okay.
Yeah. They're very, they're usually, I don't use overhead projectors for those. We do them with you know, old paper and bullet points to try to keep more informal.
Okay,
We don't want to be lecturing people.
okay.
Does that make sense?
Have you done a preliminary assessment of our program?
No, we've just had a couple of preliminary meetings to talk about what the scope of work for this should be. So
Okay.
Do all of your recommendations consist of something? I know most of these require, you know, we're talking about restructuring and so on and so forth. Are there any recommendations you come forth with, or just manipulating what you have? Meaning, are we going to have, most likely, is it your recommendation going to be we spend more money? Or that we
We have
really
to do an
spent our money
assessment
poorly?
first?
We don't know if we want to hear that. No.
Well, I could tell you, we do quite we focus on municipalities and school districts, okay? More than half of the assessments we do, we're told upfront, no more staff. It's just kind of the way it is. It's really about reallocating people to do the right things. We've had cases where we've justified additional staff, where we've taken, you know, 2 or 3 positions and carved out another position. And actually, you know, in one case we they let a part-time person go and had another full-time person. But really, almost always we're told when we start, maybe you can have some more money if you do a really great job of justifying it, but you're not going to get more.
And that's just, not just with the staffing, that includes the infrastructure as well, and,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah, you know, what happens is when we do the workshop initially, we tell you what we think is best regardless of budget. And then you say, no, I don't have that money, I have this money. And then we go back and we work together to prioritize it. But it's always best to kind of hear, it's always best for you to hear, here's really the right thing to do, you know? And then to engineer it down from there.
Here's a perfect world, and
Here are options, and
Yeah.
here are the trade-offs for the different.
and you'll do and I presume that your work assessment will include an inventory of equipment and.
Yeah, we use some tools to create equipment inventories. Another thing I should mention is all the, you know, the 5-year budget I keep talking about. All those things we give you in Word and Excel. And the idea actually is once we're done is you take those over. And if you just roll that budget into your budget process every year, it'll just become kind of a regular thing. And you won't have to see me for so many more years.
Okay.
Well, that's a good thing.
But anyway, it sounds like a pretty good blueprint to move forward.
Thank you.
That would be the output, right?
Right.
All right, well, any other questions?
How long would the process take?
Usually takes a couple of months. Sometimes it depends on scheduling, but it's usually about a 60-day process.
60 day, yeah.
And you completed an assessment with who in Riverside and with the village, as well as
Actually,
the high school? or-
we didn't do an assessment when we started with the village. We just, because of the way the contracts work, we just took over. We're at the end of our first year with the village, and so now we're actually going to do an assessment as a part of our starting the second year and creating our 5-year budget plan.
So you're just executing with the infrastructure as it.
Yeah,
As it stood
it's
for 1 year.
actually not the right way to do it. You know, here I stand up here and talk about best practices, and that wasn't the case. It's like the other firm's contract ended and we take over, and oh no, the backups aren't right. So away we go.
Well, what services are you providing to the village?
We're doing all the IT
So
for.
you are IT. You're the IT
We are the
department.
IT firm.
And what does that entail? I mean, just, you don't have to be complete.
High level.
High level.
Everything from PC break fix to backups to actually we're working on a phone system replacement project for them, to supporting their police, you know, dispatch center, all those kinds of things. Laptops in the squads, all that.
Run a help desk at all, or?
Yeah, there's a help desk product that we use there. Someone on our staff is there 1 to 2 days a week, kind of depending upon need. Been a little bit more because as a part of this takeover, as a part of our startup, we've had some things that absolutely kind of gotten fixed, had to have gotten fixed.
How many people do they have on staff for working on IT? I'm just curious.
Just my folks.
Okay, so
And
nobody
one-
who's full-time or even part-time?
Yeah, we work directly for the finance director.
Okay.
So your staff is on the premises, you said one person was there twice a week?
Yeah, yeah, twice a week or so. Yeah.
Any other staff?
Depending on projects, we have about 15 people. So you know that individual does certain things well, and then we have subject matter experts that do other things.
But do you have remote service then for them? So if your guy is not there in the office and the server breaks down, someone can remotely take access and
we actually have something called a managed services system, which alerts us when something breaks, so that we know before they do.
Mhm.
And then it allows us to remote in and fix it. We can set thresholds for things so that if, for instance, the disk is getting full, it tells us before it all blows up. Those kinds of things.
So is the
It's
village,
actually pretty cool.
the village retained you as well to do an audit in addition to these other services that you provide?
No, the audit is just coming out of it as we move through the process.
You're just saying, okay,
Yeah.
you need to do.
You're already
X, Y,
there.
and Z.
Yeah, we're already there. It's kind of, like I said, it's not really a best practice method, but you take over the contract and then you have to kind of grow it organically, get the audit done. And they had some additional money to replace PCs, so we had to do an audit, figure out which ones are bad, those kinds of things. We support maybe, we support in one way or another, whether it's full outsourced or supplemental, about 15 communities around Illinois. And you know, in the school district side, the only place where we really have supplemental people is U46. We have, I'm the network manager, and one of our staff is the telecommunications manager for the district. So they have 3,000 phones. So it takes an expert to run it.
So does U46 have an IT department, or you're the IT
Yes,
department?
no, they have an IT
So there's
department.
both
Yeah,
coexisting,
yeah.
you and
Yeah,
them.
I work for the director, and actually there are 3 engineers that work for me on specific projects that are district employees.
Do you offer employee training as well for certain IT programs or?
Yeah, that's what, the
Here.
whole slide of the certifications is
Yes.
about. Those certifications all require classwork and tests, and then ongoing CPE,
That's for your staff, right?
Yes.
Right.
Oh, no, what I meant
Oh,
for
I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, I meant for like the district staff, for instance,
yeah, we do.
RIT, okay.
Yeah,
What kind of
you're right.
training do you offer?
Oh, boy, pretty much everything.
Okay.
Because we do quite a bit of what we would call supplemental support, we work with existing staffs. We're integrated with them, and the idea is to help them implement technology and then to teach them how to use it on an ongoing basis.
So when you say you hand us off this 5-year plan and all the other artifacts from this particular project, which is an audit,
Yeah.
and then you say we don't have to see you for 5 years, that may be one thing that happens, but what could also happen is that out of that we learn, well, we have a training need or a professional development need, we could potentially engage you for that. We have specific projects that need to be gaps that are, addressed, so we could engage you potentially for that. I mean, there's certain in-between things that could also happen, not just, you do it and you go.
But you're right, an example is we recently finished an IT plan for Naperville Park District. And one of the things that they need to do is to improve the way they govern IT. So they're going to set up an IT committee. So hopefully they're going to have us help them set up this IT committee and participate for about the first 3 months. And then once they've got it running as well, hold the machine, and then see you later.
IT government. governance, that sounds like a good idea.
Yeah.
where-
Yeah, it's one of our kind of standard things we talk about, is governance. It's how you set these priorities, you know,
Right.
how you make these decisions. You can't make them in a vacuum.
How many employees does Client First have?
We have 15 professional staff, 6 administrative staff, and then we have actually another 11 people that are contractors who work for us almost exclusively. One of those folks that's a contractor has been with me since 1998. But we can't support his vacation schedule.
Mm-hmm.
You know, he's he likes 6 weeks off. We don't have that in our program.
Okay. All right.
What kind of presence would you have here in our district for this 60-day period? I mean, are we talking about one person in the buildings, 8 hours a day, 5 days a week, sort of
No,
thing?
it's more concentrated. There's really, in the work plan we put together, there's a day of kind of interviews and tours up front, maybe a day and a half. And then there's a couple of days when one of our engineers will be working directly with someone at the district staff, actually working on performance of the system and tracking metrics related to that. And often during those days, one of our engineers is here. I work from here just to kind of make sure everything's going well. Then we actually work on performance metrics and come back in about a week to kind of review what the measurements have told us over the last week. Then we go away for a couple of weeks, and then there's some phone conversations, and we're back for a couple, 3 days to do workshops. So it's mostly gone, but.
So you're not doing physical review of wires and infrastructure and that sort of thing? Where are you?
We did include time to go to each of the buildings. We'll look at the physical cabling, but we're not going to test cabling. You know, I've been doing this a long time, and if something doesn't look right, then we'll note it and say that needs to be tested later. But in general, it's an overview type of thing. So no, it's not that exhaustive, but we'll find pretty much everything there is to find that we need a little bit of. It's about improvement. Looking for things to improve.
We had a proposal in last month's regular business meeting about this. Has anything substantially changed from that?
No, I think Mary Rose just asked if Tom could come and present.
Sure.
So then we could discuss how we wanted to move forward.
Okay.
Yeah, that proposal's still the proposal.
Because we still need to draft the RFP for this, right?
Yeah, I think we're going to talk further about it in the Finance Committee meeting, about how we want to move forward. Or are we?
Or if we are at all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, it hasn't been decided, but we did think it would be helpful to understand what an assessment would look like, what kind of staff time it would take, whether it included hardware, and you've provided us with that information.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate the opportunity to speak to you.
We appreciate your coming.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Waiting, after 5 minutes, my computer switches over to vacation pictures. I've been standing here waiting. Start showing vacation pictures.
Where'd you go?
Oh, they're all over.
Oh, okay.
When my son graduated from college, we went to Norway.
Mhm.
So there's some just gorgeous pictures.
Okay, well, another time.
Yeah.
Just make us jealous.
All right. The second presentation from the floor.
Can I
will-
just ask one quick
Sure.
question as follow-up to this? Are we having a further discussion now, or is it going on to the November Finance Committee agenda? Because I'm just curious if that timing works to be able to, if we indeed say we're going to move down that road in November, is that timing good? I don't know the answer to that.
I don't know either. This was essentially intended just to be a presentation for information purposes, but if we want to discuss next steps.
I'm just,
I mean,
I don't know if finance committee is where we want to do it, great. I just want to make sure I put it on the agenda for November. Or do we want to
We can
move
discuss
forward
it,
with an
discussion
RFP
items.
and have a couple other vendors be ready to go for November?
Why don't we discuss it further in the discussion item, new business section?
Okay, thank you.
Is that going to be
Business.
tonight?
Yes,
Tonight, okay.
yeah.
All right.
Now, Ramesh Nair, our owner's representative for our capital projects this summer, will provide us with an update.
Where'd you go on vacation?
The
Go on
Hollywood.
vacation
The
this
Riverside.
summer,
Yeah.
man. He
He
was
was in
here.
Riverside.
We're very interested.
He's got some great
Went to
vacation
Lions.
photos.
He went to Hollywood.
With the Lions.
He went to Hollywood, right?
Okay, the last time I stood out here was late August, middle of August, and the next day we had the occupancy inspections for the school projects. And as predicted, we did get through it. But I had reassured parents and teachers who had asked specific questions about life safety and, concerns that they had on previous projects. And I want to reassure you that when we did the punch list on the following Monday, we pointed out a number of issues that were not showing up in the occupancy inspections. So I want to reassure you once again that those points were taken very seriously and they're being rectified right now. The punch lists were issued. They're very extensive documents. A lot of stuff is above the ceilings. A lot of work that you really don't see, not the cosmetic work, that's being fixed right now. So rest assured that the contractors haven't run away, they haven't taken the money. There's substantial amounts of money that is still being withheld at this stage while we go towards the end of the project. Essentially, we've given them 30 days to complete punch lists, and one of the parts that had been brought up about a few months ago was that after your last construction period, some of the contractors had left and you never saw them again, and you had issues regarding balancing the heating and cooling systems. And in this case, we've talked to our mechanical contractor, and he has reassured us that he will be balancing the heating system once we move to the heating season. So it's not like in the 30-day period that he leaves and goes away. So there are two balances that are being done. Currently, he has finished the cooling system, but once we move to the heating season, he will balance the systems for heating. And those systems were finally installed in the last week. There were two different systems completely that were installed. That's the quick update as to where we have moved in the last 30 days. Of course, the schools have opened. I think parents have walked through the buildings. It looks a lot more than a new coat of paint. Buildings look brighter. The buildings look a lot more, up to date, let's put it that way. We've made some significant progress in just the 3.5 months when the projects went under renovation. The first thing I want to talk about today is the financial status of your projects. The key item to look at out here is, of course I don't have a pointing stick, but is looking at what were the awarded contracts and where you are with change orders. I had mentioned that in the last 2 months that we have been very careful in spending your monies. And I had said that if we had spent about 5% of the contracts and change orders, it wouldn't have been a surprise. This is renovation. It's a very difficult project, very aggressive schedule. When you open a wall, you don't know what you're going to find. 5%, based on my experience, very acceptable amount. I want you to look at that $75,000 number. And if you look at it as compared to the $5 million that was awarded, it is just over 1.5%, which shows it's been a very tight ship that's been run. And I'm very close to finalizing all the contracts at this stage. And I have managed to extract monies back from the contractor for work that is not performed as well. So rest assured, it's a very tight ship that we have run through this project. That's the first takeaway that you see out here. The second one is There are actually some contractors who received no change orders. That means they bid their projects very well. They had enough monies in their contract to cover contingencies. And those are the two contractors that you see as Acitelli, who was a mechanical contractor. A very tough contract, by the way, extremely difficult contract to execute, but he pretty much managed it without any change orders. And you have Honeywell, who was the controls manager, who had no change orders either. And you can see most of them are very small numbers. The biggest change orders went to Simpson, who was the general contractor for the project, who had to manage quite a few of the other trades as well. The other point I want to point out here is that right now we are holding close to 15% of the contractor's monies, even though the job's done. And what that means is that till they turn over their as-built documentation, warranties, the attic stock that's owed to us as per the contract, and any training that is required, plus completion of punch list, we do not release that money. So hopefully when I stand here the next time and the last time before you all, I should be able to tell you that they have turned all those documents over to us. They've given us all the attic stock, the punch list is complete, and we're done with the capital improvement program for 2013. That is my goal over the next 30 days. To those who have not been inside the school, I'm trying to show you a few pictures of areas you may not have gone down to. This is the teacher's lounge in the basement at Blythe. Okay, so the space was coming along even at when school was occupied. It wasn't really complete, but now it's very close to completion. These are the steps that were leading up to the gymnasium. This is the same staff lounge downstairs in the basement. Beautiful bathrooms, highly up-to-date, accessible toilets. Right. A classroom with actual furniture. I think last time I showed you a picture which had no furniture, but the tile work had been completed. But you can see the classrooms, what it looks like. And this was the waxing and polishing of the corridor tiles on the day before school opened. At Hollywood, I had mentioned that literally 3 days before the occupancy inspections, we were trying to complete the principal, Mindy Keller's office. It was that tight, the schedule. I mean, we had the window guy literally showed up on the 20th of August to install these windows. I mean, it was a very tough schedule, but he met it, and the school did open, and Mindy had complete use of her space. I mean, that's a view looking into her office. School signage is about to get installed. I just received note from the contractor that they had received all the signage. It's a one-day installation, will take place within this week. Again, this is part of Mindy's office area. The corridor down at Hollywood, just before waxing was accomplished. The gymnasium at Hollywood. Classrooms, installation with furniture. Again, now the corridor has been waxed. You see a little bit of sheen to it. The new entrance at Hollywood. Again, these were the new covers that have finally arrived. They came in last week. Just as Mindy told me that, Ramesh, I'm getting concerned that it's a safety issue. The contractor had just put a cardboard box, if you may believe. It's a fairly large structure, and kids are naturally drawn towards it. But we have the actual permanent cover in place now. The library at Hollywood. And once again, I always like to show bathrooms because the first question that came out of Mindy's, wow, these look awesome, but all the water-saving features out here are causing me trouble because, a 5-gallon flush and now it's being reduced to a 1-gallon flush, has issues, so I did give her a list of recommendations as to how to proceed, you know, so.
More information than she probably wanted.
It's actually a very strange question, but I've done this at a number of schools, and I've had this question asked of me like, okay, well now how do we use these bathrooms? I mean, they always seem to block up, there are issues, because kids are not using, they love to stuff stuff. What happens? I have to give a quick checklist of how you go through this, so. Bathrooms, believe me. And last but not the least is Hauser, to those who haven't seen the space, it's a beautiful space. By putting those mirrors, which are wall to wall, it doubles, the perception is that it's double the size, so it helps a lot. And the acoustical panels, which go at the, I would say, almost the ceiling level, they run across there, are due this week. They had to be measured, and the lead time for that was almost 12 weeks. We are due to receive them this week. This is on the mezzanine off that same space, the storage space that's available. That's how you go up to the mezzanine through this locked space. Another view of the same space, going across. The punch list for this space has been issued as well and should be completed within the next week or 10 days. Really, I mean, it's been a great pleasure working with this team. Really no complaints, had a lot of help from everyone, and as I said, for the next 30 days, I hope to sign off. Thank you so much.
And we're going to need an occupancy sign in the bump out as well.
We have the occupancy.
The number.
The actual sign certificate?
No, the
occupancy number for the bump out
Sign.
room. The
Public sign that you can see that
69
says
or
how
whatever.
many people are allowed in that space.
Oh, yes,
Yeah,
yes,
we need
that has to be posted too,
Yeah,
correct.
very good.
Absolutely. Yes. We did take care of the fire rating issues. That's all done.
Excellent, excellent.
All right, thank you. Anybody have any other questions for Ramesh? I guess I have one. Just when, what next steps are you going to go through before you're totally signed off?
Tomorrow, my office will issue the document list that's required of each contract. It's a very extensive list. It takes some time to put together because it's not just the attic stock, it's every submittal, because in the future, I mean, 5 years from now, if you ask the question as to, you know, where are these documents, who had them, what was issued, you want to know that. So this is a very extensive, almost 25-page checklist that's going out to all the contractors. They need to submit those documents. And that will be the collection that we will put together, and my intention is to submit 3 full copies to the district, 1 each for the schools and 1 for the board itself, so that there's 1 centralized copy and the 2 copies that go to the school. There'll be 3. There'll be digital copies and hard copies, so both exist. That's the first step. Second step is the financial sign-offs. Right now, I have finished evaluating and approving the change orders for, I would say, 98% of the contracts. The 2% is the money that needs to come back to us. Okay, which is always the most difficult part, because they always feel that they don't owe you anything. And it's always easy to give them money, how to take it back. Because there were some back charges that Zach had pointed out to me, and I had gone forward. I had told them that there's no way we would release the last of their money till they signed those. I've already issued the credits that are owed to us. We got back some of the significant ones. There was a $35,000 change order, which was a credit back to us. We got that back. But some of the smaller ones, again, it's important to remember that I will issue what's called an exit interview at the next board meeting, which I'll show you my concerns on how the contracts were written, what issues we had, and how to improve on this the next time. The important thing out there is, when you have 5 primes, what are the troubles that we had? There's some pluses, but there are a lot of negatives, and which you'll see in my exit interview, which I would like to point out as to, and what's the alternate? I'll give you alternate methods of how to contract on this one. So once that money's collected, I need to, because as Lisa can tell you, we actually had to bring in an outside contractor to help finish the work. We had to supplement staff. Now I need to pay him too. So, but this is money that it's not, the school board doesn't owe him the money. These contractors owe him, so we need to pull that money out of their contract. No one likes to sign that because they feel that, the owner went out of his way. The way our contracts are written, that the owner can always bring in crews to do work, and that will be back charged. The key out here is, being fair and being firm. I'm trying to be both, and they're trying to think that I only represent your viewpoint, but the thing out here is I'm trying to be as fair as possible on this one. But it will be taken care of in the next 30 days.
And then after the exit of this presentation of exit interview,
Yes.
you'll be finished.
Yes.
By the way, one other thing, who's managing the punch list? And when do you expect that to be?
The punch list again, remember the 5 primes. They, out here, Acetali, for example, the mechanical side, he will not be finished for quite some time, be almost 30 more days because till we call for heat. He needs to balance that system.
Right.
Now, architecturally, which is Simpson's side, it's mainly cosmetic work. He should be done in the next 10 days. He finished a major chunk of it last weekend, okay? Leonard is done with his punch list. Electrically, there are a couple of items which were added on, which are extra items. For example, in the conference room at Hollywood, we have moved to a surface-mounted light fixture from a recessed. The reason being, there's not enough light, number one. Number two is it looks really awkward because you have two different types of ceilings out there. Above the ceiling, there's actually a precast structure, and there's the other half is a hollow structure. We could not accommodate a recessed light in that ceiling, so we've said, let's do all of them as surface mounted, so those corrective light fixtures don't arrive for the next 2 to 3 weeks. So it's a bit drawn out. Unfortunately, it's drawn out more than what I would like to, but so be it, if that's the worst that takes place. But rest assured, I don't leave till all the other contractors are out. I'll be the last person off from here.
And Mary Rose, we'll do one more walk of the facilities once we're close enough to be able to okay that the punch list has actually been executed, because as Ramesh stated, we want to pay them when it's done. And so he and I, are representing the board, want to make sure that those items that we noted are complete.
And Bob and Mindy have both been giving me running commentaries on what they have found, because sometimes as you use the spaces, some things become more apparent to you. And they've been sending me lists, and I've incorporated those as additional items. But the issue out here also is a contractor who could easily access the space previously, he cannot do the same thing now. He has to come on off hours. So there's a lot of coordination that needs to take place. You don't want to have them coming every day either. So you want them to do work in a consistent manner, maybe on a weekend, but we have to get that going, So some of the work is still left out there, but we're making progress.
Okay.
But as I said, I'll be the last guy out.
And when do you anticipate all change? I know it's hard to read the future, but when will all the contractors be finished with everything?
Next 30 days.
Okay.
That's a good time frame, but if it slips by a day or two for one of the 2 primes, one odd prime, that's okay.
All right.
But financially, I would be closed down. For example, I just want to point out the Bateman contractors who finished over 2 months ago, they were screaming for their retention money. Now, I approved the approved their pay application, but I put a caveat in there saying not to pay the money, and it's being held till they turn over a critical document. I've mentioned, and I have Nancy clarify, she won't send the check over till she gets a note from me.
Right.
So we are following through on all the processes.
All righty, thank you for that additional clarification, and thanks again, Ramesh, for assisting us with this project.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next presentation from the superintendent and staff, and we have some guiding principles that we've established, that support our district mission, and that's what Bhavna will be speaking on.
We've divided our presentation under the guiding principles of academic and professional excellence, financial and operational excellence, and then rigorous communication. Under academic and professional excellence, we'll give more details in the education committee that's coming up in October. But what we did this week was the same action plan presentation that we shared with the board in August. We went around to each staff, shared with them what our guiding principles were, the goal statements, and the action plans. And then from there, we are going to be formulating some committee. Dr. Gannon sent out applications for the 3 committees, which are the Common Core Committee, the Student Services Committee for more of an inclusive environment, and then also the 21 T-cubed committee, which is the Instructional Technology Committee. And they'll also, if we go forward with this infrastructure, ought to be working with deciding what's working and what's not working with the infrastructure, and then how can we have some guiding principles for instructional technology. So we're going to be spending the next 2 weeks reviewing those applications and then sharing the results at the Ed Committee of how many people applied and who the committees are. In addition to that, we'll be sharing the district ISAT results with staff. We're going to have 3 optional presentations throughout the week at Hauser. They're going to be one before school, one during lunch, and one after school. So if staff would like to see the overview of the district ISAT results. We will also be sharing both presentations with PTA and PTOs in the month of October, as well as I shared at October 1st's Ed Committee. Under financial and operational excellence, the draft 2014 budget is posted, as Mary Rose stated in our announcements. In addition, Zach has provided all of you with some different scenarios and projections for the budget, and Mary Rose posted those onto your Google Docs so you can see those and review those, and then ask questions at the budget hearing, or compile them to Lisa and share them, and I know she's going to be speaking to that at the under the Finance Committee section. We are also reviewing an ADA compliance in regards to our parking at all of our schools. So we'll be working with the village on that. Work has started with Central and Hauser to look at a parking spot for handicap parking for dropping off and picking up students at the arrival and dismissal times. And we are also continuing to work with establishing process and procedures for purchasing aligned to the guiding principles. So making sure that principals have, once the budget is approved, principals have a budget, and then sharing that with their staff and the process of what we're going to use to purchase items. And for rigorous communications, we sent out our first school reach message last night, just sharing with people that we're going to be using that more often for frequent reminders. Principals will be elementary principals will be sharing an upcoming fall parent night. They'll be sending out a reminder for that. And I know, unfortunately, Bob and Mindy were able to use it yesterday and today about their phones not working. So that was another way of sharing the school reach message. We are also going to, after this meeting, put out our first board update newsletter. So it'll go out to staff, and it'll be updated on our website of just bullet points of what we talked about today, our presentation, the guiding principles, as well as action items, so staff can be updated as to, if they can attend the board meetings, what we discussed. We're going to be working with Mr. Perry on announcing, if it's okay, our new logo winner, whether we do it at the Ed Committee or whether we're going to do it at our next board committee. We have, schools have voted. We've selected someone, or selected a logo, and we'll be sharing that with you shortly. And that is all I have.
Thank you.
Can I just ask one question? On your rigorous communication, is there a plan that you have in regards to the elements and pieces of the, like, I don't know if I'm asking it correctly, but like your using of the school reach obviously is part of your communication plan. Is there a point in time when we're going to be able to see what the pieces of that plan entail before they kind of are executed?
Do you mean something like the actual, like, for example, we're going to implement Common Core, so we're going to have a committee who's going to lay out maybe 8 work days and what they're going to do on those 8 work days before we're fully aligned, something similar to that. So like if we have school, like for example, we're going to use school reach more, here's how we're going to use it.
Yes, that's what, because
Okay.
I'm curious to see the elements of that and how it's going to be executed. And I guess I would hope to see it kind of laid out before it's executed, just so that we know the framework we're going down.
Okay.
Would,
And I don't think there's a place we have that sort of set up. I don't know.
would another way of maybe talking about it would be in terms of what communication tools we're using and
How?
under what circumstances we'll be using them?
Yeah, because I mean, I would think that part of the rigorous communication plan in your mind, you have a strategy you want to go after to achieve rigorous communication, and what are the pieces that we're going to use to get there?
Maybe what we
I mean,
could
you
do-
also, I mean, you've done the superintendent thing that you've sent to the community. Brian's done a piece that he sent to the community. What pieces fall under that plan?
Would it be helpful if maybe, and what we can talk it over with Art, since we're meeting with him about the Ed Committee, lay out that same action plan? We have one for the communication piece, but then maybe specify when we say enhance regular communication, what does that mean?
That's
I think
what I'm
we gave
looking for.
examples of different modalities like personal, email, social media, but maybe we can list school reach, board updates, superintendent's update, and list specifically what we're using and
Yeah,
maybe
and
how
kind
long.
of, you know, it looks like you're rolling that out, part of it in September. Is there another piece that you're going to layer on in October, or are you all doing it in September? I mean, I just would like a vision as to where we're going.
Yeah, and if that rigorous communication, if there's an element of that that includes the coordination of communications with our village police departments and with our village and with other school districts around us, or high school and stuff like that, if there's an element of that that we can put in there, that would be helpful as well.
Okay.
It was the first time I've ever gotten a school reach for a non-emergency situation, so it's like, oh no, what's going on?
No.
Oh, yeah, great.
And all our phones are ringing.
Yeah.
Cell phones, home phones.
Cell phones, home phones.
Was it before Dancing with the Stars? Was it on last night or Monday night? No, yeah, it was last. So was it last night? Okay, good. I wanted to do it before it started, so it was on at 7.
All right, thank you. Now I'm going to calling for reports from committees. Art, do you have any comments?
Yes, our next scheduled meeting is the Education Committee meeting on October 1st, which is Tuesday, and it is in this room, I think, and at 7 o'clock, I think. I could actually look it up, but no, that's when it is. I do want to say that we, Dr. Sharma Lewis and Dr. Gannon and I are meeting on Thursday, so if you guys have any, like, things that you'd like to see on the agenda, please get them to me, tomorrow. Because next week I will be out of the country is another reason. So just a little heads up there. But yeah, that'll be really the kickoff for the Ed Committee, since we haven't met since, I don't know when.
Long time.
A long time ago, 6 months ago or something. Thanks.
All righty. Next, Finance Committee report.
Okay. We had a finance committee meeting 2 weeks ago, Tuesday. I don't know the date, but that was it was the first Tuesday in September. At that meeting, just to recap, we had a budget presentation, a levy presentation, and we are preparing ourselves to take action on the budget in October. Briefly, we learned about the handicap parking situation that Bhavna just mentioned. We had a conversation about the Blythe Park windows and a strategy on collecting some additional information about how we would like to go about that, understanding what we've done already, gaining some information from the architects been put in place, as well as contacting the village to see what we need to bring to the party there. Ramesh touched on the punch list, so I think I don't need to do that. He did a good job of that. And we continued some discussion about the employee relations expenditures. I would just like to comment that I did collect questions from the board. There was only a couple people that responded to my email about looking for additional information in regards to the budget. And that information was communicated to Zach the middle of last week. So he is in the process of putting together an executive summary, and as well as noting pieces of the budget to understand what ups and downs are and kind of his thought process behind that. And I know there's a sense of urgency to get that because we really have to have it before the October meeting if we're going to be able to ask any additional questions. So one idea that I had was to potentially maybe have an additional Finance Committee meeting before the October meeting where Zach can bring this executive summary to us so we have time to react to it. So I don't know what the rest of the board members think of that, but I would be willing to figure out a coordination of a date with him and put that on the calendar to be able to have that healthy discussion with enough time for everyone to make comments and feel comfortable about where we're moving for the October 15th meeting. So
I would support that.
I'm just bringing that to the table, and he and I will set up a schedule in regards to that and a meeting date and let everyone know if that's how we would like to go.
Yeah, I think I would support that as well. We want to flush out as much information as we can, before October 15th. So it does seem we'll need enough.
Okay, then I have a meeting set up with Zach on Fridays to answer some basic questions for me personally about the budget, but I think we could take that time to structure that and put a date out there for the rest of the board as well, if that's where we want to go. So I will move in that direction. It seems like I'm getting head nodding around the table.
Yes.
Okay.
Sorry, quick question about the financial projection document that was shared. I'm going to need some guidance on that.
To be totally honest, I haven't looked at what was shared today, so I can't. But we can put that into part of the special finance committee meeting as well. You just basically need understanding, not specific questions.
Understanding of the whole structure. Like the first page is like one scenario, and the second one is like that scenario plus another scenario. What's the narratives behind
Got it.
that?
Okay. Okay. So that's the end of my report.
Lisa, can I just ask a clarifying question? Is it an additional meeting, an additional finance committee meeting, or do you want to add that to a committee meeting or the board meeting?
No, I think we should have an additional
Okay.
finance committee meeting, that the focus of that meeting is just the executive summary and the answers to the questions that
Okay.
we've derived from the initial budget presentation.
And then if any questions come out of that, Zach has time to get us information before October 15th.
What's the status of the handicap parking spots? We're required to have 3 spots now?
Yes.
Or,
Yes.
and so is that done? Are they striped, painted?
No, the initial,
Posted?
the engineer came out initially, he was measuring the slope. He said he was gonna try to get a general idea where we're at, and from what he was using, we were near scope or slightly below. When he brought in he was here Tuesday, he brought in a more sophisticated measurement device, and we are actually exceeding the allowed slope. He's going to come up with a plan on 3 alternatives of what we should be doing in regards to being compliant with the ADA. It looks like we will be doing some kind of patchwork in order to reduce the slope. Ballpark figure he gave me is it'll definitely be under $10,000, maybe around 6 or 7. But that's just ballpark.
So we decided, because I thought there was a consideration for just moving the spots.
We did move it.
Okay,
That's in
but
addition to
still,
moving it.
we have the
When he
slope
came back to
issue.
remeasure with the correct device, we were, it's such a fraction of being above the slope. For example, one slope was, we have to be under 2, and it was 2.05.
And just to correct that, it's going to be $7,000 to $10,000. So.
And unfortunately, yes.
Zach,
Nothing's cheap.
what door is used in the back of this building for the handicapped?
I
entrance?
believe the entrance is the entrance before the hallway to the auditorium. In the back, that's the entrance for the handicap.
It's like next to that big chimney, I think.
Exactly, right.
Yeah.
And discussions are still moving with the village for the other
Yes,
out front
I believe
piece.
they were here actually today, surveying the spots.
Okay.
And that's really all the village.
That's the village,
all,
correct.
you know, and we just get told what they're doing.
That's correct.
But the obvious location is right there where they have the sloped sidewalk part.
That's where I ideally would suggest.
Yeah.
But it would, the engineer is going to give us
Their recommendation.
exactly and reasons why it has to be here.
Okay.
Zach, just out of curiosity, you talked about the slope and the parking spots, so we're gonna need to do some additional work. How does the proper slope get determined? Is that an ADA requirement?
That's an ADA requirement, correct. They actually had somebody out here that told us we weren't in compliance with the original spots we had.
Any other questions or comments? Okay. Thank you. David, do you want to give us a?
On policy, the policy committee met earlier this evening. We addressed the 4 outstanding policy items from prior press issues from the IASB. We had a acceptance and a first reading of 2 of those policies, and we have the committee chose not to move forward on 2 others. So 2 of them will be moved to the October policy committee meeting for a second reading, with hopefully with eventual adoption at the regular board meeting in October following. We also had discussions with regards to updating 3 policies where the recommendation and it was accepted by the committee to make a technical correction on policies related to uniform grievance procedures, workplace harassment, and harassment of students, where the contact that's listed for the district is going to move from a principal position to a district-wide position. So there's a position where it's going to be Dr. Gannon, and there's another policy where for the workplace harassment, I believe you need a male and a female, so the female representative will be Dr. Sharma Lewis. So that is going to be moved to, that's going to be recommended later this evening for adoption as a technical correction. And then there was a couple other items. We had a discussion about hiring process and criteria, but we are going to defer that for consideration, maybe possibly being discussed with a working committee as well. And then there's a discussion with regards to committees and updating that policy to this, for some items related to committee of the whole, updating our committee structure with regards to how many members are going to be on there, and some other issues that we had two committees that we need a little more history on, and so we're going to defer that. And with that, that's my report.
Thank you very much, David, and especially for recapping the earlier meeting today. Appreciate it. Any reports from board liaison activities? The IASB?
IASB, I'll report that from a legislative standpoint, I'm going to be attending an EdRed luncheon this Friday to hear discussion, a legislative panel discussion about what's going on in Springfield still. Obviously, the big discussion would be pension reform. Also, the next, in November, they will have the ISB joint conference. I have been registered for that conference. This is the big annual event conference where there's going to be a lot of discussions, a lot of sessions, educational sessions. I will not be able to attend the Friday working sessions and I would really recommend that someone else take my place. According to the rules of the conference, we're allowed to use my conference registration and allow another board member to take my place for that day. So if you are available to attend the working sessions on Friday, please let me know, and we can we can coordinate that. There's a lot of good sessions. I'm sorry, I have a work conflict that I cannot attend.
I do plan to attend portions of that meeting, although I have not registered yet.
Yeah.
And I think, I would probably want to be there a Saturday and Saturday as well.
Yeah.
So I'd get my own.
And I might be interested.
Okay.
I've always wanted to go to that and not have the opportunity due to conflict. So
All right.
I have not looked at my calendar, but I would like to.
Would you like us to send that out to everybody to see if anybody else is interested after they see the sessions?
Yes.
Okay.
I think so.
I keep putting it off, so this will help me confirm, but with Juanita. But what dates are those again, David?
It's
Right
November
before-
22nd through 24th.
Yeah, it's like
correct?
the weekend before Thanksgiving, usually, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's the weekend before Thanksgiving. So it's 22nd, 23rd, it's 3 days?
Yes.
You can see some board secretary training being offered.
Yeah. Yes.
I'm already ready.
Awesome.
Thank you. Any comments for the PTA, PTO?
We have our first gathering of the year tomorrow, so
Okay.
I will have a report next month.
All righty. And anything from the Parent-Teacher Advisory Committee, otherwise known as the Discipline Code Committee?
No, we have not met.
All righty.
Like, wait.
We have to determine if that's really what it is, right?
Yep.
That's our history. That's our homework for.
That's our homework, absolutely.
For policy committee.
All right, thank you. Any other liaison activities? And Pat, also next on our agenda would be a report for the Riverside Education Council. Pat?
Good evening.
Good evening.
Members of the REC are here tonight to show our support of the Employee Recognition Event. Please notice that I use the word event. The event is important to recognize the achievements of all staff members and celebrate our district accomplishments in a professional atmosphere. This is the only time the entire District 96 Education community is together. These reasons for maintaining the recognition event were also stated by Mr. Kadama, Mrs. Gaynor, and Mr. O'Brien at the Finance Committee last week. However, President Mrs. Nyanja stated even more clearly that to do away with the event would be symbolic, and the REC could not agree more. In the spirit of collaboration and partnership, the REC would be happy to join the board in looking at ways to keep the costs down. However, we hope that the integrity and the importance of this special event would be maintained. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'd like to proceed now with item M on our agenda. It's the financial section of the audit. We all have the informational financial statements in our packet. In the future, I think we're planning to have Zach speak to those and go over them, but that will not be happening today. That would be the financial, various monthly financial statements. But instead, we're going to move on to a discussion of budget questions. Zach is going to maybe give some insight on the questions that we've asked that Lisa forwarded to him.
No, we just discussed earlier that we're going to do this at another finance.
All right, so does anybody have any other questions in the meantime?
The meeting's going to be in between now and a month from now?
Yes.
Correct.
Okay.
And I will probably send 2 dates, more than, we'll try to.
October 1st.
Right. Not.
It's his committee. Looking at you.
All right, thank you. Next on our agenda are our action items, financial related action items, which would be approval of the general invoices from the schedule. Can I call for a motion on that, to move that we approve the payment list for general invoices?
So moved?
Second.
All right, thank you.
Randy Brockway,
Yes.
Lisa Gaynor,
Yes.
David Kodama,
Aye.
Rachel Morello,
Aye.
Michael O'Brien,
Aye.
and Arthur Perry.
Aye.
Mary Rose.
Aye. And we have, the board has passed and approved the invoices included in our board packet. The next item up on the agenda is a roll call vote on our employee relations expenditures that we are going to the administration has recommended in our 2013-2014 budget. They have moved that we spend a total of $18,000 for all employee relations expenditures. And I'm going to clarify, I do have an action sheet. I'm going to clarify that I would personally recommend that this be for all food-related employee expenditures in the budget, that they be included, approved at the district level by Zach, that there will be, that a specific account will be set up for all food-related expenditures for employees, and that they not be included in the future in the supply budget, or if they are, a very clear account, and that there is no discretion whatsoever for principals to be ordering employee-related foods as part of a building budget. That all of it, whether it's for and this would include all food. This would be our employee-related food. It would be our annual event. It would be any kind of food for institute days, any kind of ad hoc celebrations that might occur on the holiday. The total budget for all food catering, I'm recommending be $18,000, approved only at the district level. Any comments, questions?
Just thinking about how feasible that is. I mean, if there's just a gathering, a breakfast staff meeting, and someone wants to, if they decide to bring donuts or something like that.
They're free to pay for them out of, we're talking about using district, school
So
funds,
they would
budget.
just have to submit the expense back to Zach then for reimbursement. Is that what
If-
you're saying?
Yes,
Yes,
and we're
okay.
also, yes,
Okay, all right.
but that it be tracked and it would be approved at a district level.
That's it, okay.
So Mary Rose, the $18,000, how was that arrived at? Was that, could you give some insight into that number?
I'm going to ask Bhavna, it's a staff recommendation.
Sure. We looked at previous expenditures, what we've spent on the annual event, what we've spent on past institute days, meals, and we came up with a general amount of what it's going to look like for this upcoming year. So we looked at last year's days and this year's date, and we're projected. We'll just monitor that closely.
So you would say it's similar?
It's comparable.
What are we spending on institute days?
I don't have that number. Do you have it, or we can get that for you?
Yeah.
Exactly. We don't know what the exact bill was. Like, we ordered breakfast, for example, for this institute day, and we also provided lunch for each of the buildings.
And what did that cost? What did breakfast cost? What did lunch cost? We surely
We can
know.
provide that for you.
Provided.
Yeah.
But, so for the last school year, I mean, where was the number? I mean, I would think that you kind of looked through the expenditures from all the schools.
Well, the problem that
Was-
happened last year is, issues with Riverside Golf Club. We didn't get invoiced until this year. And that was probably what you guys saw as the big bill. That was actually last year's event that would hit this year. But when I looked at the 3 years, we're at fluctuates between 20 and 22.
But was that an unusual delay? Or,
For
I mean,
some
is it
reason,
always?
they didn't invoice us, and they seem to.
I'm just wondering if last year's expenditures invoices included the year before's
They did
expenditure.
because they had that same issue the year
Yeah,
before.
okay, so
I don't
it's
know
just a
why.
rolling, you know.
We have to actually call them to invoice us.
Yeah, so every single year, there's some $9,000
Right, so
charge
it is,
from
yeah,
them.
right.
So 9,000 plus all these other things equaled about,
About 20 to 22.
20 to 22.
okay. And so we're recommending 18.
Yes.
And another thing, David, if I may add, in principal supply accounts, it wasn't differentiated what the supplies were.
Sure,
So
sure.
sometimes there were meals or other incentives that were purchased, and so we're going to differentiate that and have an approval process. So we're putting that all in a district account instead of specific building accounts.
I like the idea of the all together in one account, as you suggest, Mary Rose. The number, the $18,000 number, you know, I'm not comfortable with that yet.
I
What
have a
information
question.
do you need?
Here's the question. I established already that this is not commonplace in government anymore. It's become, it's a phased out practice. It is not only in government. This is something that's the first thing to be cut in private industry. I can't tell you how many people walked up to me in the past couple weeks and saying, we used to do these things and it was cut. Our spending is way out of control. And I think this current administration is helping us getting under control, but I think it's not about appreciation or lack of appreciation, it's about we need to cut the excess. And this is like, to me, this is like a no-brainer. It's the first obvious thing. The PTA and the PTO does a fantastic job of honoring our teachers through the Appreciation Week. And I think PTO goes above and does more. We just need to be budget conscientious, and we just need to, it's all about costs, and it's about how do we tell our taxpayers that we're going to continue to tax them to the max and then keep spending like this? We can't. Or in the alternative, in 3 years, we're going to be in bad financial shape. I think we need to just think for the future. We don't even know how this pension reform is going to hit us. I mean, that's in the making, and there's so much unknown that I'm getting, my position is just we need to be thrifty until we know those things are certain. And we know we're in good financial shape.
Well, I would just say that my position is opposite your position. I do feel that there's a need to celebrate success, recognition, time of service. Mary Rose did a nice job of putting a piece together and doing some research about other school districts. School districts are still doing it. Government
shocked.
might
I'm
be not,
shocked.
but school districts are.
School district is government, and that's why I was
Well,
absolutely shocked.
but I'm comparing
with
school district bodies,
But I'd
not,
rather be a leader than a follower.
Well,
And I understand and I respect your opinion.
that's my
I'd rather be a
opinion.
leader and follower than saying the rest of the world has turned and gone the other direction. And we should follow in suit because we could be in trouble very shortly, or we're gonna have to keep telling our taxpayers, sorry, your tax bill's gonna just continue to skyrocket.
all right.
I don't think it's going to skyrocket on account of a $9,000 bill. I have to side with Lisa on this point. It's something I think that builds employee morale, and I think we can continue to do it. We've been doing it for 27 years. My concern would be this, is that I'm assuming we're budgeting the $18,000. If we vote on that to accept the $18,000, we are assuming that if we hold this event, that dollar amount would come out of that budget, correct?
Exactly.
Okay.
This will be, what I'm envisioning, first of all, Randy, one of the things we did want to do was make sure we can track this expense. If we can't track it, we can't moderate it up, we can't moderate it down, and so that was the concern. And also to make it very clear that, you know, it's not something we want to do is be providing a lot of employee meals unless it is in conjunction with events we all agree upon. Or not, we all agree upon. We're going to let the, we're going to let the administration manage this. And, hopefully they don't spend the money all in one place, but
Right.
this is it. But
Right.
everything comes out of it, and it's tracked, it's approved, and that's it.
My concern is if we vote for the $18,000, essentially we're letting the administration decide what to do with that money, whether to hold that dinner or not. And the last meeting we had, the last general board meeting we had, Rachel brought this issue up and said it's it's not an appropriate use of funds. I talked about it to Dr. Bhavna Sharma Lewis, and we're probably not going to do it again. My concern is that if we vote that $18,000, we're giving the superintendent that discretion to decide not to have that dinner or not. My question to you is that if we vote this $18,000 in, will you have that dinner?
Well, yes, if that's
Okay.
what has been past practice. But I think Rachel, if I could clarify, and I know you took a direct quote, I think she shared her opinion with me. There was no decision that was made.
Okay, to me, she shared her opinion and your opinion in that.
That was
I'm
not
just-
my opinion.
That's fine.
I did not share my opinion at
Okay.
that conversation.
I
She shared her
understand.
opinion.
I
If you don't
appreciate
have
the
me, I'm
clarification.
commenting that to have something at a country club, the appearance of impropriety is looming. So it was just it is my opinion based upon what I know and what I do. Absolutely.
Right.
I'm
And
speaking-
you know,
This is something that
right.
could totally hang us and make us look really bad. There's a lot of the public that is upset by this.
All right, that, you know
Should've
what,
been with
that's
us
your
last year.
opinion, and the people who've come to you, I've had people come to me say, I'm glad my tax dollars support the people that work hard for do this, so.
Everybody's entitled to their opinion.
I absolutely agree.
I support one side and you support the other, fair enough. But
I think I just want to say, I think it's unrealistic to go down to $0 for employee relations. I don't know if 18's the right number or 10's the right number, but I'm willing to support this year an $18,000 expenditure for employee-related catering. And I don't know if we have to amend the motion, Mike, to make sure it includes an employee recognition event. I don't know how committed you are to the golf. I don't think you're committed necessarily to holding it exactly the same way we always have.
I don't know, and that's why I bring it up. I understand, and I wonder if it's a path that I'm trying down that, how, we allocate the budget dollars to do this, and, if we're going to do that, I'd like to see the recognition dinner held. Sure, maybe at the country club, maybe somewhere else, but I hesitate, where was it?
No.
I hesitate giving that and letting the administration decide, because I had a question about that, but at the same time, I heard Dr. Sharma Lewis commit that if we do that, we'll have an employee recognition dinner.
And I would like to take the suggestion, if I may, of what Mrs. Gill spoke, that we work together
Sure.
and plan something.
I appreciate it.
When do you typically have to reserve a venue for this? Do we have any idea?
I don't. I know they're going to be calling us, is what Sue shared, but she didn't give me an exact timeline.
Since we're talking about the country club, we're talking about the Riverside Country Club, I would like to pose a question to the board members. Are any of you members of the club or have financial interest in the club?
No.
No.
I do not.
No one, okay.
I have one thing to point out, though, regarding what we're doing tonight. Conflict of interest is defined as voting on something in which you have a financial interest in, separate and apart from the general public. If we're voting to approve this, you can't partake in it anymore because the second that you vote on this and that you take advantage of this, we're getting a financial interest. Having a financial interest in that event, assuming you don't pay for your own way or for your spouse's own way, and the second we walk in that door, we're engaging in a conflict of interest.
Walking a really interesting
it's not a
fine
fine
line,
line.
because my children go to this district, and every single vote that I make with a financial interest in my education, do I have a conflict?
It's substantially different.
I called
called
Stan
it.
Eisenheimer on this issue because I worried about my conflict of interest on this, and he did not see a conflict of interest on this.
What he did as far as you walking into that door and taking
As far as
advantage of
me
this?
taking that, I can't speak, but I have to agree with David. I'm sorry, I'm not going to toe that line.
Well,
It's up to you.
and also I spoke with Stan too, and I feel pretty comfortable. Plus, that's part of it is that we are voting for a bulk expense, nothing specific, and if I had a real concern that there'd be a conflict of interest on this, I would simply pay for my own ticket, to be honest with you. But most ethics policies, I've had to sign, usually exempts perishables, because, perishable foods and.
That's different, that's gifts, that's different from conflict of interest, though.
All right.
It's substantially different.
Rachel, I don't
understand.
could you elaborate a little bit more about the conflict?
That you're supposed to not make any decisions with regard to something you have a financial interest in. So obviously, if you have a company that you're voting on a contract, something of the sort, you're voting on something in which you're partaking and getting a financial benefit from. And if you attend the golf club, because we don't pay for our own tickets, the spouses of the board members don't pay for their own tickets, assuming spouses go. So
Where's the financial interest?
yeah, the financial interest.
A food?
Is a meal.
Financial
meal?
interest, anything,
Like
the
this meal?
financial issue, financial interest.
Well,
is
that's
measured-
true. That, I assume this comes out of that, but that 18 grand.
I don't know what comes
Yeah,
out
I
of
mean,
it.
you're
that's
going
not
down
a-
a
that's not
path
employee
that,
So,
catering.
you know what, we all need to make our own ethics decisions. I'm
Yeah.
saying,
then
I'm
you,
somebody who.
make sure you don't have any of this food then, so you can make that decision,
Yeah, I'm comfortable with my decision.
I'm
Well,
comfortable.
That's fine,
I'm,
absolutely.
thank
Everybody
you.
needs to make their decisions for themselves.
I'm not comfortable
But-
with the $18,000. I think that number seems like it was quickly and perhaps inadequately presented to us. From what I'm hearing, people are looking at each other, how much is a employee recognition? Well, we know how much that is, but how about the institute days? How does that play out? I'd like to see more numbers there. How many institute days do we have? How much are we allocating for that? Will we spend the $18,000? I would guess we will if we have it.
We have no past records to share. That's what we were trying to, so I apologize that we look like we don't know what we're, that we don't know, that we don't have competent numbers here, but we're basing it on what we've spent just this past year.
Yeah.
We don't have records from last year that specifically designate employee relations or specific meals for this event. We're just putting together the estimates of what we spent on Institute Day this year, the bill we got for the Riverside Country Club from last spring that we're paying for this year, and we're gonna have, if we do it again, we're gonna have to pay for it twice. Because we have last spring's bill that was hitting this budget year, and then we'll probably have this spring's bill that'll hit this budget year.
Yeah, I have to agree. I think Mary Rose has done some good research on this, and that the administration, meaning Zach and Dr. Charmalus, have done the best they can to come up with a number. Basically, because from what I understand, is these dollars came from different funds, and you're trying to piece together, and you're trying to put the best number forward. And I'm confident with the $18,000.
And that's no different from every single other budget
Right,
line
right.
item
Right.
that we have out there, is that you do the research, you put the best number, you're trying to guesstimate what you're gonna need in the future, and
We've also had some research done by the Landmark and Bob Skolnick, and he interviewed some other school districts and reported in a recent article, and it appears that District 96 is off the chart compared to our local school districts.
That, having called several districts, not the same ones Bob did, that isn't the conclusion that I came to when I read Bob's article. I'm not sure he asked the question if it was all of their employee catering events. I think a lot of his questions were, were what specifically for a recognition event. And that's actually what we're trying to get to the heart of here. It's that we want to be able to, even some of the superintendents I talk to, they say, oh yeah, we've got a certain amount of catering and a supply budget. Even they have a hard time, telling you, one superintendent says, I just can't tell you off the top of my head what we're spending on catering. He did describe his dinner to me, but he had no figures. Others were very, very good. The superintendent from the Hinsdale Elementary was quite specific. But again, believe me, the recognition events, be they luncheons or Hinsdale does a cocktail party, is not the full extent of what people are spending on food for employees. And part of the reason for having this discussion and putting forth a motion and a dollar amount is to be very clear that we only want to spend a certain amount on food for employees. And also, just because we're authorizing $18,000, I hope they don't feel compelled to spend every dime of it. And again, I had been told that they were cutting back over the years on Christmas luncheons. I don't know if that's really true. So again, we're going to allow a certain amount of flexibility and then monitor it, but to making very clear that it's a district level expenditure. It has to be approved by our finance our finance director, and we're going to give her the staff the flexibility on how to spend it, with the idea that a recognition event will be a big portion of it. And I personally would ask that you watch what we're spending on Institute Days. To be honest with you, I don't know why we bought both lunch and dinner, but or a lunch and breakfast, and I don't know if that's just a first day thing or.
We were advised it was past practice.
All right.
Yeah, well, I'm tired of hearing about past practices. This is a new board. We have a new administration here. Let's not just fall back to past practices. I'm uncomfortable with that.
I agree with Randy. I don't think we should do something just because it was a past practice.
That's because
that's fine. I think we're not trying to do that. We're
Some-
trying to get a handle on the costs and assign a budget to it and go forward. I think the district recognition dinner is past event, past tradition, but it's something that I support. You know what, Rachel? I'm sorry, I don't share your opinion. You're not going to change my mind.
I'm not trying to
Yeah,
change
for those
that.
that
I think
I
you
think,
But there's
for
another
those
thing
that
we should
attended
do.
this event, I think I've heard nothing but praise over the value that they see and the appreciation they get for the district and what makes this district special in terms of a time for all the different employees from the different staffs, and whether it's teachers or administrators or the custodians, the secretaries all getting together, and it's a special event, and so therefore I support it. I would like to move our discussion. I think we're keep on.
Hang on. Let me finish what I wanna say.
saying a lot. Wait, let me finish what I'm saying.
Okay.
So I think we're all saying our positions, multiple times. I would like to see us move to a vote, and I would like to move forward with the action item as stated in the action sheet.
Second.
I would still like to say what I want to say.
Okay, and we can have that in discussion. So
Okay,
we have
we're
discussion now.
Okay, we're discussing. Only half the employees go. And, there's a huge, and maybe you guys, I don't know if you see this at Blythe or if you see this at Central, but there's a huge divide between Riverside, North Riverside and Brookfield. And I feel like the golf club is kind of representing, again, a distinction between the haves and have-nots. Because not everybody necessarily may be comfortable in the country club environment. But
And that's based on
is it
what?
I'm
And
saying.
what is that based on?
Based
On
upon
your speculation?
understanding- Speculation goes a long way, based upon culture and understanding. Tell me why then, if it's so important, why only half the employees go?
I think, I did try to get some information on that, and, but I guess here's what I'm gonna say, is that we're putting this motion forward for 2013, 2014. We are going, I would like to think that we are going to monitor it. I would like to see broader attendance, and, I want to look for ways to encourage that. Maybe, this particular dinner at this particular venue doesn't quite, but
Yeah.
for the, those are all good questions, but I do want to establish an employee catering budget. And as we look at it and monitor it, we make adjustments in both the amount of the budget and maybe, gather more information on how it's spent, and to encourage greater participation. But I have to say.
If we start seeing the participation drop, maybe this is not, our superintendent and REC need to rethink about, holding this event, because it's not valued by our staff then, if the participation starts to drop.
Well, it's not a very good participation at present.
It's about 60%, I would say.
60%. Okay.
And
I would feel more comfortable with a greater cut. We're talking about going from $20,000 roughly, a number that we grabbed a hold of last year, to 18. I mean, what is that, 10%? I would feel much more comfortable if we were talking about a total of maybe $10,000 rather than $18,000.
But you can make that after we have a vote.
Right,
Yeah.
because there's a motion on the
After we have a vote,
floor.
we have a motion on the floor right now.
And I support the 18. I second David's motion that we vote on this as motion stated.
Well, David, your expert chair, I would like to make sure that we state that it is not monitored, totally a district level budget, and that it is approved by Zach. And that's not exactly how it's stated, but
Okay.
but those are, and that it is monitored in a single account, and that we just are not supporting any school level expenditures coming out of the supply budget. So can we all agree that that's implied in the way this motion stated?
I don't know if I want to do implications here. I mean, can we actually alter this motion then as a friendly amendment?
Yes, what's that?
So,
Can we still discuss here?
Yeah.
We have to take
I-
a vote.
Discussion is.
have
oh,
to
if
I
your-
think-
you know what,
well, if your discussion is about putting out a new number or putting out something else, but a change, then,
Well, maybe it's not putting out a new number right now, but
yeah, we can.
I would just offer for consideration the fact that we're talking about spending $18,000 on food and so forth. At the same time, we're asking the PTA to fund certain programs in the school, cultural arts programs, field trips. We ask parents to pay for field trips. I, for one, feel as if that should be coming out of our budget, and it's more integral to educating our students, rather than having bake sales and fundraisers, constant fundraisers by the PTA to help fund our educational programs.
I think those are two different things.
Well, no.
That's in my mind, they're two different
they're
things.
one
This
and-
is from the administration, and that's from the parents and the teachers. It's an organization.
We don't tell that organization how to
What to
spend their
do.
money.
No,
What to do.
But
if I may jump on your point, I think seeing money spent in the classroom to me is better than spending out of the classroom. It's a simple dichotomy.
I'm
in
saying-
the classroom, out of the classroom.
I'm saying that the district monies ought to be used in the classroom, and that for the field trips, which are so hard to attain, from what I understand. They're expensive, and they're just not held very often. And one of the reasons may be because they have to be funded by an outside source. I'm not saying that PTA is a bad thing.
I'm not suggesting that. I just think that we're talking about two different things in my mind. In my mind.
It makes sense what he's saying, as far as like, we're supposed to be spending exclusively on the classroom, and PTA is supposed to be spending on all the pickup where we're not able to spend.
Or deriving their own programming to
And they can do
enhance
that.
the curriculum, which is a different goal.
Not really.
Well,
I mean, our goal
I-
here is, and it's a philosophy, and it's a principle and a premise that we obviously support differently. PTA is not a bad organization; they have the option, but generally the PTA is trying to fill in for where the school lacks.
But I'd say I don't agree with that, because I ran
Or
a PTA
supplements.
for 3 years, and we took programming to enhance a curriculum. It wasn't filling in, it was making it one step better. That's- I don't think it's on
Yeah,
task. I think we're
Excuse
off
me,
task.
we're, I'd like to move on. I just want to say that, there are just, the school district is an employer. And for those of us who might be supporting this motion, we just believe that there are just some things that employers do, and we would like to include this as one of, a certain amount of a catering budget as part of it. And, and it's not any more complicated than that. Anyway,
So,
David, are you, wouldn't,
President Mangia, if I could do a friendly amendment to the proposed motion
yes?
to state that I move that the Board of Education approve the budget amount of $18,000 for employee relations to be monitored and accounted for at the district level and utilized to recognize employees' service and dedication.
Can you add the word "and approved" at the district level?
And approved. Monitored, accounted for, and approved.
Yes.
So what's the difference between a friendly and an unfriendly?
It's
It's
no
a friend-
difference. You made the original amendment.
No,
so you
it's,
can
it's,
argue-
the motion was drafted by President Mangia, and
It was
so.
drafted, but you physically made the motion, so
Yeah.
you're free to, I
Right.
think,
Okay,
amend it.
then,
You just did.
Can I second it?
Can you
Can we
reread
vote?
it, though?
I move that the Board of Education approve the budget amount of $18,000 for the employee relations to be monitored, accounted for, and approved at the district level and utilized to recognize employees' service and dedication.
Second.
All right, it's been moved and seconded. Can we have a roll call vote?
Randy Brockway,
Nay?
Lisa Gaynor,
Aye.
David Kodama,
Aye.
Rachel Morello,
No.
Michael O'Brien,
Aye.
Arthur Perry,
No.
and Mary Rose Mangia.
Aye. We've passed the motion to approve $18,000 for an employee catering budget for 2013-2014. Thank you. Next. Yes, now we have some other action items for approval of the personnel report. This would be the employment, resignation, performance, or dismissal of employees. Are there any questions, comments? This would be for the, should we do each one of these separately, do you think, certified, or just, yeah, I think we will.
Yes, because I think Art has a question on one of them, so yes.
All right. All right, I will call for a roll call vote, a motion to approve the 2013-2014 certified staff appointments.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that we approve the certified staff appointments. A roll call vote, please.
Mary Rose Mangia,
Aye.
Arthur Perry,
Aye.
Michael O'Brien,
Aye.
Rachel Morello,
Aye.
David Kodama,
Aye.
Lisa Gaynor,
Aye.
Randy Brockway.
Aye.
Next would be a motion to approve the 2013-2014 support staff appointments. So moved and seconded? Right, second. All right, thank you. If there aren't any other further questions, would you please call the roll call on the support staff appointments?
Randy Brockway,
Aye.
Lisa Gaynor,
Aye.
David Kodama,
Aye.
Rachel Morello,
Aye.
Michael O'Brien,
Aye.
Arthur Perry,
Aye.
Mary Rose Mangia.
Aye. Now I'm asking for a motion to approve the support staff resignations. Can I have a move and a second?
So moved.
Second.
And can we call the roll for approval of the support staff resignations?
Lisa Gaynor,
Aye.
David Kodama,
Aye.
Michael O'Brien,
Aye.
Arthur Perry,
Aye.
Mary Rose Mangia,
Aye.
Randy Brockway,
Aye.
and Rachel Morello.
Aye.
The next would be for the memorandum of understanding included in the board packet.
I would like to postpone a vote on that, and that we have a discussion
Discussion
in
in-
closed session about the nature of that document.
All right. Move that we table this item to closed session.
Second?
All right. Juanita, can we call the roll?
Mary Rose Mangia.
Aye.
Arthur Perry.
Aye.
Michael O'Brien.
Aye.
Rachel Morello.
Aye.
David Kadama.
Aye.
Lisa Gaynor.
Aye.
And Randy Brockway.
Aye.
And next, I'd like to move that the FMLA leave request be approved by the board. Second?
So moved.
Second.
And Juanita will call the roll.
I'm sorry.
It's okay.
Arthur Perry.
Aye.
Michael O'Brien.
Aye.
Rachel Morello.
Aye.
David Kadama.
Aye.
Mary Rose Mangia.
Aye.
Lisa Gaynor.
Aye.
Randy Brockway.
Aye.
All right. We've passed all of the personnel items except for the memorandum of understanding, which we will discuss in closed session. The next one is the approval of the televised board meeting intergovernmental agreement. We had a kind of an edited copy in the board packet, but Juanita has brought the final version, the complete version, and this would be for televising our board meetings. Is there a motion?
I move to approve the intergovernmental agreement between Village of Riverside and Board of Education for the filming of District 96 Board of Education meetings. Second.
This is, they're operating, they're filming us right now. Is that part of this? I mean.
Yes.
Okay.
We've actually already approved the expenditures a couple months ago. This is just we're adopting the formal agreement.
Okay. So this just took time to hammer out language with attorneys and things? Okay.
Yeah, both, and I thank you for asking. Both our attorney and the village's attorneys have looked at this, and this is the agreement with the changes that were recommended by our attorney and agreed to by the Village of Riverside. Is that pretty much it?
Okay. Thanks.
Okay, thank you.
I just have one more question. Is this being paid out of Board of Education Services, and have we properly included this in a budget line item? Zach.
They're chit-chatting.
Oh, sorry. Did we include the cost of this taping in Board of Education Services for the upcoming
Yes, I did.
budget? Okay.
For next year.
Yes.
For this coming year,
For
yes.
this, for 2013,
Yes.
2014.
Yep.
All right, Juanita, would you like to call the roll?
Arthur Perry.
Aye.
Michael O'Brien.
Aye.
David Kadama.
Aye.
Lisa Gaynor.
Aye.
Randy Brockway.
Aye.
Rachel Morello.
Aye.
And Mary Rose Mangia.
Aye. Thank you. We've approved the intergovernmental agreement for the meetings that have been taped for the last 2 months. Thank you very much. Next agreement is the Riverside Brookfield Area Property Tax Appeal Cooperative. This is that we, do we have an agreement on this one?
Can we get a recap on this agreement?
Sure, this was the letter, it was in your packet last month for a first reading. The law firm Franzik and Sullivan is working with, I'm pulling up the Riverside Brookfield High School District 208, Brookfield School District 95, Comerica School District 94, North Riverside Library, and the villages of Riverside, North Riverside, and Brookfield, along with us, to put together a cooperative. So when there is property tax appeals, that one law firm handles it, since it would affect all of us, and then we would just divide up the legal fees accordingly and equally among those. So that's what the agreement outlines for us.
Do we have, are we notified of what the hourly rate is going to be, or how the charges? I don't see anything in here about that.
I'm seeing here where it says fees, and I'm on page 218. Is that what you're looking at too,
Yeah,
David?
right.
Okay.
Fees and payment, required fees.
It's gonna be a good deal no matter what, because I'm guessing Francis and Sullivan probably, how many, let's see, taxing bodies are involved? At least 4? Hang on.
6.
6, so,
8.
It even affects the library
Yeah.
districts, right?
Correct.
okay, so I'm guessing they
Well,
probably.
the library district is included in
North
the six?
Riverside,
No.
but Riverside is not. Is there a reason? I mean, do they, is it just no one's approached them, or?
Wait, who?
These were the people.
Riverside.
that were-
Riverside Library is not listed, well, at least on the thing that I read,
Well,
maybe I'm wrong.
Riverside, which library district?
This is North Riverside.
It
Well,
says
that's
North
because
Riverside.
I'll go out on a limb here, please don't quote me. But I know for a fact that the Brookfield Library is not a library district. It is a library fund that is technically overseen by the Village of Brookfield. And I will go out on a limb to say that that's probably the case in Riverside.
So
it's
they
not
don't
a
qualify.
separate, it's not,
They're a taxing body.
Yeah,
though.
they're
they are a
taxing-
taxing body, but it's it's a fund that's managed under the village. It has its own board of trustees, but it's for the umbrella organization, in this case, it would be the village. I'm not a lawyer, so don't quote me, but.
But do you think
Call
that might-
Stan if you want, but I'm guessing that's why.
They might have opted not to participate.
But the
Maybe-
thing I find
Why
interesting
Maybe
is
because
what
they
hap-
saw the hourly fee.
there are parts of Brookfield that are not even in
Well, I mean, that's the same.
the school district, so I don't know if how that would play into this agreement. I find that interesting. Detail, I guess.
Do we have any other questions on this?
I don't
So
see
does-
how you
The fees,
accept
there's a
this.
governing board, though, that would negotiate the fees and things, from what I read.
Yeah, I think.
Powers of the governor is empowered to perform all acts necessary to accomplishment of the aforesaid purpose, including but not limited to retaining appraisals, consultants, attorneys to effectuate the purpose of this agreement. The governing board appoints forensic as counsel. Under this agreement, the governing shall retain appraisers and other consultants on the case. I don't see where they say they determine, you're
Well,
saying
they
that
have
they
a
would
go-
determine the fees? Or
It says
negotiate the
review,
fees?
Section B, 5B on page
5B,
2.
oh, okay, 5B.
Review of required fees.
Okay, decisions regarding the expenditure of funds required fees shall be made by the governing board. Are we on the governing board?
Well, we have
We have
we
to
have-
have
we
a.
have
one member.
One
We have a
member.
member.
Who is?
It would be either Zach or myself.
Oh, okay, as long as it's not me.
You were put on it when,
Can I just ask a question? Do all, like, in the recent Riverside Golf Club situation that came to us in July or August, and we had to make sign our law firm to it, does that fall into here?
Yes, but I actually had asked them to wait until this decision was made by all of you because then Frantic, because they all got the same.
That's what I was asking.
Appeal.
It wasn't us, it was
Correct.
everyone, because I was just curious, then our law firm would no longer be engaged. This
Right.
co-op would be engaged
Right.
to take care of that particular PTAB appeal.
Right, and then we would divide up the cost by however many
Got it.
people, 6, 8, or, however many, groups are listed.
Okay.
So procedurally, so you're sitting on the governing board, they come up, are you coming back to, are you coming back to the board to let us know ahead of time what the vote is gonna, when the pending vote is gonna be, and then we give you direction, that yes, or do we have to participate? If we join this, do we have to participate and
You're
accept the fee?
assign- Right,
We have-
you're accepting this, because for example, like, the Riverside Golf Club had a tax appeal. So they all got it. We submit it to them, because now we've signed this agreement saying we're part of this cooperative. Frantic is representing us. They fight it or not fight it, whatever. They give us back the decision, and they give us the, we divide up the bill
Yeah.
8 different ways.
So we don't really have, I mean, if the fees are just getting, we have a majority of the governing board is just wants to fight it till the end of time and everything like that, and they're racking up fees, hand over fist, because we're a minority voice in that, we really can't stop it. We can't.
give it a spin and see how it goes. We can always
Right.
withdraw and then.
Well, there-
agree
But I just want to know
with it.
procedure.
There's
I
no
just wanna-
majority voice because everybody gets one.
Well, what I'm saying is that if there is the majority of the members feel this one way, that they want to pursue, and we are in the minority voice, then, I just want to
Okay,
know
I see what you
procedure,
mean.
Yeah, then I'd come back and share that with you.
What happens if we don't approve this?
Then we would just continue
Yeah, we just
using
continue
Hodges
that.
Louise and just send.
Right, but for them, they couldn't do an intergovernmental agreement if one of these,
They would change
governmental
it,
bodies, they'd
right.
have to take that out.
Right.
In the past, track record this has been beneficial, I have to imagine.
Well, you're dividing your legal
I
fees
mean,
by
just saying.
8
Logically,
Have,
rather
have we
think
done
it
this
makes sense.
before, though?
Yeah, I think. I mean, I don't know if we've done an
I thought that was one of the questions.
But I thought we
The whole suit
participated
that was
in a
going on
co-op.
for years with North Riverside Mall.
Carson's and all that. and-
That wasn't organized exactly the same as this, was it?
We
Bob,
were on
how
our
did
own
it-
when we
how
got
did-
that.
How did it come about
I
that we
thought
were
that-
asked to participate in this?
John?
We just received a letter. Yeah, Zach and I received a letter in July.
And who
Tried to
who
figure it
organized
out.
it? Was it the
Right.
Village of Riverside?
No, it
I
was the
think
high
it's
school.
RB.
Yeah, the high school.
Because their person is going to be the chairman of this governing.
Okay.
I thought with
their
Carson's
law
that
firm as well?
the judge
I don't know.
combined a bunch of the challenges to
Mhm.
the,
Well, they
like
might
the
have
Carson.
consolidated for
It-
adjudication purposes,
Yes.
because it's not in the fee sharing arrangement.
Right. But I think that was the only consolidation that was done.
All right,
So the judge just ruled across the board, and then all the lawyers were represented, and all lawyers then billed all their clients.
So Rachel, since you're a county lawyer, you have any special
Oh,
insight
are
on
you
this
kidding?
one?
No way, yeah,
No? Okay.
sorry.
All right.
So,
Just checking.
Rachel, is there any potential for conflict of interest?
No,
Between this accounting firm and these different bodies? You don't see?
No, because I'm not actually in an attorney role. I'm not in an advocate role, so no, there's no conflict here.
No, I'm not thinking of you yourself. I'm thinking about the firm.
Oh, with Franchik?
Yeah, the firm and the different bodies.
Is Franchik any specially equipped to deal with PTAB cases?
Franchik has a strong reputation.
This
They-
particular attorney they said was the best.
I
That's
Are
know-
the
they,
session-
are they
that's
in the
the-
back pocket
that's
of the?
yeah.
I don't know about the
Harris is his
reputation as
name.
far as their
Tax.
education experience, so I assume they're equally as good.
Well, they have an ethics code that they have to live up to, too.
Yeah.
I hope we would live by that. If there was some conflict of interest, he would disclose that, but I can't imagine what it might be.
Yeah.
All right, can we call for a vote on approving the intergovernmental agreement to form the, to approve the RB Area Tax Appeals Cooperative Intergovernmental Agreement between the parties, RB, Riverside Brookfield High School District 208, Brookfield School District 95, Comaric School District 94, North Riverside Library District, and the villages of Riverside, North Riverside, and Brookfield. But can we have a vote?
Mary Rose Mangia,
Yay, aye. Yes, no?
Did you have a motion and approve on that?
Yeah, that was
Did-
a long time ago.
We'll go,
Long time
before we
ago.
started
I think I
discussion.
seconded
Wanted-
I just restated it.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Arthur Perry,
Aye.
Michael O'Brien,
Aye.
Rachel Morello,
Aye.
David Kodama,
Aye.
Lisa Gaynor,
Aye.
and Randy Brockway.
Aye.
All right, it's been, the board has approved the tax cooperative for dealing with PTAB appeals. All right, next. We have something to approve a resolution for the Illinois Municipal Retirement Fund Earnings Resolution. This would be that IMRF eligible employees, that their premiums paid for their cafeteria 125 benefits are reported as IMRF earnings. So that would be the premiums that the district pays
Correct.
would become income. So somebody want to move to approve this resolution?
So moved.
So seconded?
Second.
All right, can you give a little more detail about what this means, background on this?
I'm going to ask Zach. Can I defer to Zach on the IMRF?
This process has been in place since 1983. What it's doing is including the district's paid portion of the insurance as income for IMRF to apply their rate for the pension plan, their pension. So they include the district's portion of the insurance, not just their income.
And does it affect income tax as well as pension earnings?
It's
Or-
the insurance is pre-tax.
Okay,
So on an income tax basis, that doesn't affect
so it affects strictly
the IMRF.
the earnings
The earnings
reported
calculated-
for pension
Yes.
purposes.
Yep.
And have we been approving something like this every year?
This has been the process since 1983. They came in here, IMRF did an audit. They wanted a letter in their file that this was our process.
Okay, so it's reaffirming formally something we've been doing all along.
Correct.
All right. Any other questions? Juanita, can you call the roll?
Rachel Morello,
Aye.
David Kadama,
Aye.
Lisa Gaynor,
Aye.
Randy Brockway,
Aye.
Michael O'Brien,
Aye.
Mary Rose Mangia,
Aye.
and Arthur Perry.
Aye.
Thank you. Next would be approving a notice of appointment of an authorized agent for the IMRF. And this would be Zach Zayed, has been listed as a new authorized agent, and he will replace the previous agent, who was Dr. Lamberson. Can you explain to us what you do in that role, Zach?
IMRF needs a contact person for authorizing any information regarding rate for the year, any information for audit purposes that says what our rate is for the year, fiscal year, our contribution amount that's been paid, reports regarding that. So it's just a contact person.
Yeah, you're not accepting any fiduciary responsibility or anything?
No,
like
I am
that.
not.
All right, can we have a vote on the motion that the Board of Education approve the appointment of Mr. Zach Zayed as the IMRF authorized agent?
So moved.
Second.
Okay. Randy Brockway,
Aye.
Lisa Gaynor,
Aye.
David Kadama,
Aye.
Rachel Morello,
Aye.
Michael O'Brien,
Aye.
Arthur Perry,
Aye.
and Mary Rose Mangia.
Aye.
Congratulations.
Good luck.
A lot of fun.
Our next item is the Illinois State Board of Education School Recognition Application. And again, we have to submit an application to be recognized for recognition of schools, and this application has to be approved by the board. Somebody give me a little background on exactly what type of recognition we're applying for?
Sure. It is actually just an annual application that each of the schools fills out. It says how many certified employees they have, how many non-certified employees they have, and it's just basically a form that we have to submit into the state, and we need board approval on it. So it's just recognizing that our schools have X amount of employees that are certified and non-certified that support the instructional program.
And
So I only see one school
For what
here?
purpose? I don't follow. What, you say recognition?
It's just recognized by the state that we're an
In-
operating school.
This is a requirement.
Correct.
This is a requirement. We don't get any awards back.
No, no.
We're not getting any Apple awards or nothing.
Or they'll still turn out all of our dashboard information, whether, so it has nothing to do with that kind of
It
recognition.
has nothing to do with any type of recognition. It's just
bright apple.
recognize that we completed the application.
So they recognize that we exist here as a school district?
Oh,
And
wonderful.
that our employees are certified, that they have certificates on file, they have to put their employee identification numbers in there, and principals are just responsible for completing that, submitting it to me, and then I submit it to the state once I have your approval.
Yeah, okay.
Why is there only just Ames here?
I think we just gave you an example of what
Just an
one looks like.
example.
Right, yeah.
So we're approving for all all our
Correct.
schools, all 5.
All 5.
All right.
So is that what the motion says?
The motion says, I move that the Board of Education approve the applications for recognition of schools as presented. So we're approving the applications. Right,
Why,
right?
why doesn't it say for all, the recognition
Well,
of
since
schools for
for
all our
schools is
our
presented,
schools?
and we only got presented the one.
Right.
So we need to assume that the other schools would be the same.
I hate us on this.
I hear you.
Would you like all
So
5 of them in there?
I would approve the application for the recognition of schools,
All 5.
of
All 5
all
schools.
schools of District 96.
Can we take a vote on the amended language that we're approving the application for the recognitions of all the schools of District 96?
Randy Brockway,
Aye.
Lisa Gaynor,
Aye.
Rachel Morello,
Aye.
David Kadama,
Aye.
Michael O'Brien,
Aye.
Arthur Perry,
Aye.
Mary Rose Mangia.
Aye. We've approved that these applications will be submitted as required. Thank you. Next, we're going to ratify the budget hearing resolution to establish a hearing date to October 15th, on October 15th, 2013, for our budget process.
So moved.
Second.
All right, and I'll just read it. I move that the Board of we have moved that the Board of Education approve the budget hearing resolution to reestablish the hearing date of October 15th, 2013.
Lisa Gaynor,
Aye.
David Kadama,
Aye.
Rachel Morello,
Aye.
Arthur Perry,
Aye.
Mary Rose Mangia,
Aye.
Randy Brockway,
Aye.
and Michael O'Brien.
Aye.
All right. Thank you. Moving on to the next item, which is the board policies that are currently under review, some of which we talked about earlier today.
Yes. I would like to amend
Yes?
the motion that's in the action sheet. I want to pull policy 2:150 on committees.
It's actually not part of the
Oh.
proposed motion.
Oh, it's not?
No.
Oh, I thought it was.
It just does, there's a note that there's action with respect to it the next week.
Okay.
Which I won't.
Okay, so,
Are we going to do these all at once? One vote?
It's that way in the action
You
sheet,
can,
right?
because it's saying that you're naming Dr. Gannon
Yeah.
or myself
Yes.
as all of them.
Okay. I did want to point out, I just noticed this, that I was looking at the policy on uniform grievance procedure, and Dr. Lempiris' name is still in there. It hasn't
right,
Right.
so that's what we're going to be updating,
Okay.
yes. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Because is that the one that needs a
It's
mail and a
2:260.
260, right?
That's, yeah.
Shall I?
Okay.
David, do we agree that we don't have to?
Yeah, so if we can, so if that note it has no impact
Yes.
on it, then I move that the Board of Education adopt the policy updates as presented in 2:265:20, 7:20.
Three separate policies. All right, so, second?
Anyone?
Second.
Mary Rose Mangia,
Aye.
Michael O'Brien,
Aye.
David Kadama,
Aye.
Lisa Gaynor,
Aye.
Randy Brockway,
Aye.
Rachel Morello,
Aye.
and Arthur Perry.
Aye.
Thank you. And we are now on to new business discussion items, and I believe we do have a couple that have been brought. The notes here somewhere. Oh, I think the one we talked about earlier was establishing a working committee for the possible amendment or development of policies and procedures. Is this specifically for hiring or just, well, we open it to the floor.
Yeah.
So we're,
Yeah.
again, for the,
So again, just for recap, the discussion today was about addressing policy with regards to hiring and how, what is the framework for that process, in light of our efforts to pursue excellence in academics and financial, operational, and so forth, and what do we look for? So, what I heard was some need to spend time on just also procedures and process and all, and so, so it sounded like the recommendation was to develop a working committee to address all that.
right, how would we establish a working committee? Who would be on it? Any thoughts?
I think you have the flexibility to establish it.
And this would be a board committee, would that,
Working committee, yeah.
right, any suggestions? Any volunteers?
I'll be happy to serve on it
All right,
with anybody from the administration who's interested or not interested.
Not interested.
Yes,
Are you
too.
not interested? You're on.
and what staff would we like on it as, in addition to Rachel? Zach, because a lot of these things are going to be operational.
I'll
I know.
volunteer.
So I'm crawling under the chair.
I'll be happy to be on it.
All right, and any other board members?
Hang on.
You know what?
Yeah,
Let me know when the
I'll
meeting
volunteer.
is.
I'll volunteer. All right, I'll volunteer.
All righty.
Yeah, I'm just thinking of my schedule for the
You do
next
enough.
couple of months.
Yep. I
Do you
understand.
want to establish the specific policies that we're going to work on?
Can the committee?
Well, I think the committee should determine, if there are policies that need to be addressed.
Okay.
And also
Within the-
prioritize them.
Within
That's-
the policy manual. I mean, I identified 5:30, so that is one place
Yeah,
to
and-
consider,
No, I,
And hiring.
Issues, okay. What about something related to like purchasing, because it has to do with hiring contractors, so on and so forth?
I mean, because now you're expanding beyond just our staff. I mean,
What do you
with,
think?
if you're talking about contractors and
Well, then-
purchasing, I mean, you really, I would suggest that you try to keep it defined and limited, somewhat limited in scope, because you're going to be started going into other policy and procedural manuals, financial manual, operational manual, teachers' manuals.
No, we're not gonna do that.
Yeah.
No, we're not
So-
gonna do that.
Okay.
So we'll limit
So-
to hiring. How about that?
Yeah, and that's just my recommendation.
But did I throw in contractors, because sometimes contractors can perform
Yeah.
duties that typically, depending on the outsource things. We'll keep it to hiring, not a problem.
all right, so we have 4 members. We have Mike O'Brien, Rachel, Zach, and Brian. And Rachel, will you agree to be the committee chair?
Awesome, yes.
Somebody had to be put in that role. But anyway, thank you.
Yeah, so I
And-
think the expectation is going to be that it'll report, the committee will report back to the board, and if there's any policy implications, then the board will direct me, and I'll act accordingly. on
Well,
that.
I think the same would go
Right.
for finance or
And finance and
if there's
education, sure.
stuff that
Be treated
falls
like
in
any
that.
other,
Right.
Yeah.
any other committee it'll be on the agenda for reports. And you do get a little flexibility to determine your meeting schedule. And is this something we have to vote on?
Well,
I think if we're all in favor, we could just do a voice vote.
Well, it's under discussion items anyway, so I'm
Yeah.
not sure we
New
can.
business,
Yeah,
so-
right.
So, but it would be something that maybe we bring back and just, and vote on next meeting? I don't,
Vote on the policy or vote on to just.
Well, you know what?
Committee.
I
I see.
don't.
you know what,
Probably
what
check
I
the
would do
policy.
is I think, as we have in other committees, the president nominates members, and the board approves it. Is that how that is? Yeah, that's how it's worked.
Well,
Yeah,
you
for
could
ad
check
hoc.
the policy too. I mean, I don't
Yeah.
know what it is. We could check the policy.
We'll check the policy
We have to
and,
check.
Yeah, at least we have our intent.
We
We're
have
gonna
our
talk to
intent.
our attorney about 2:150 anyway, about the committee
Yeah.
structure, so we can add this piece in and then bring it back
Right.
at the next.
all right. And then the other item that we were potentially going to discuss that came out of earlier discussions is what are our next steps for looking at our, IT infrastructure and assessing it? Again, what we brought the gentleman here largely to make sure we all understood what was entailed in an infrastructure audit or infrastructure assessment. We have that information. We can, so what are the thoughts of what how we should be handling this, this information?
Sure. I would, I've heard reports that we have some immediate needs. As of last week, internet and servers down and so forth. I think we need to deal with some of this stuff immediately. I don't think we should wait 60 days. It's just not appropriate for a school district to have its website down as much as ours is down. So
Yeah, when we get notice that the server is down, it sounds like it's more than just, is it more than just the website?
It's our
It-
emails.
I mean, and, if they're using the Wi-Fi in the classrooms, that's down too. So all that's down. And how widespread, would that be just a building, or could that be district-wide, or
I think it happens at all levels.
at all levels?
Yeah, there's different servers in different, buildings, but there can be times when everything is down as well.
And is it frequent?
Well, last week's
Yeah.
report, I thought was just unacceptable, and how many times we heard it, was multiple times.
So with
Right?
that in mind,
Yes,
or in
yes, you're
light
correct.
of that,
We've been monitoring it weekly, and I've been
I
sharing that
think
with
we
you.
need to move on fixing that quickly. And if that's in addition to this overall assessment, then so be it.
I think one of the things we suggested, is this a topic for a policy or a finance committee agenda?
Well, it is, but why I brought it up is November's the next finance committee meeting. So if timing is of essence, I do believe that we need more than one price to
need
to
a-
verify that we're competitively priced. So that's gonna take some time. I mean, not time, but it's gonna be set up and we gotta go through that process. If we wait till November, we're gonna be
But now
that
we're
much
talking
farther
about
down.
having a meeting in October.
So what are we
Well,
going to do
right, but
next
the meeting
week?
in October was.
It's about the budget.
Is about the budget. I
We
mean,
definitely don't want to lose focus on that.
What are we going to do next week when the server goes down 5 or 6 times?
well, I mean,
What do? We just accept it and, I
well,
don't
but
think
even if
so.
we agreed to do the analysis with this gentleman that was here today, it wouldn't solve next week's problem, because
Right.
he's gonna do an analysis that's gonna take 60 days to
I
complete.
think we need there's a tactical situation and a strategic
Yes, I would
Yes.
agree.
approach. And
Yes.
So we need to deal with the tactical situation.
I think we need to hire somebody quickly to deal with the problem at hand. And then we can get RFQs or RFPs out for this assessment. But there's first aid, right now that needs
Yeah.
to be applied.
Yeah, because it goes beyond, I'm sorry, just real quick, it goes beyond just thinking, do we have the capacity to handle all the online testing? It's like right now, curriculum as it was planned cannot be executed because the technology is down. It's a problem immediately.
And how much did we hear last week at Fall Night about couldn't access the online
Yeah.
textbooks at Hauser? How much would it be to outsource them to have them help us now? Do we know that? Because they're talking about that's a service they provide for the village. And in my mind, I was like, well, how much would that be? Maybe it's better suited. You wouldn't need a whole separate audit because they could tell you right off the bat where your problems are. There's going to be some immediate action to that. So I was kind of curious what if we can get a proposal for that. And down the road, if we need a long-term solution, we can get RFPs for that once we figure out what our needs are, but
Well,
just to
and the
address the current
scope
issues.
of the current project does not address that concern.
Right.
It addresses a
A
much more
long-term
strategical
project,
strategic look at our infrastructure.
Right.
So I think to your point, or whoever said it, there's two different,
Yeah.
Art, maybe you said it.
Yeah.
There's
So-
two different things going on.
Yeah.
And we have to figure out if the one is if the one needs immediate assessment, then we need to refigure the scope of the project and what it's gonna cost.
So
Right.
we're not required to get RFPs, are we? I mean, can we hire someone like this gentleman tonight to solve our immediate needs?
Do you,
You don't need one under Illinois law because it's.
What's that?
You don't need one under Illinois law if it has
kind
to
of
do
best
with.
practice.
It's kind of a best practice.
No, it absolutely
I
is,
mean-
and I generally don't like to do sole source contracts at all.
I'm
Well,
not a fan.
just what do
they
we
come
do?
with a
But we have-
recommendation. I mean,
It's just the imminent need issue and how to address it in the now.
What do we
If it's-
do now?
If it's an
What-
eminent need, I mean, aren't we getting a little bit too close for comfort? I think we just trust the administration that if it's a problem for servers, do we need to hire a consulting firm to tell us what to do? Can't we just, the servers aren't working, we find someone that can fix it directly? I don't think we need to hire a consultant to tell us what to do.
Right.
If our pickup truck is broken, we don't go and hire a consultant to tell us we take it to a repair shop and get an estimate. Why can't we get an estimate on firms if it's that big of a problem? And I don't know if it is, because I'm not on the server all the time, but if it's something that the administration feels is a problem, then I think they can address it as best as possible. I think we leave it up to the administration to handle it.
Yeah, what are we doing now when the server goes down? How does it get fixed, or how does it get brought back up?
Do you mind if I call on Matt, because he's the
No.
one that's hands-on addressing that problem? I mean, he will report out to Zach and myself and Brian, as needed, but do you
Yes.
mind, Matt,
Do you mind?
answering that question? Okay.
So when the server, when we have servers go down, and there's many different servers for different services. The internet is separate from the mail server in and of itself. So when a server goes down, like the mail server, that does not mean our internet access in the building goes down. Okay, they're two separate entities. When the mail server goes down, like we've had the past week, we've had a couple times, as you pointed out, the result is that we have to restart it. Unfortunately, we have a hardware issue that when it restarts, it doesn't restart properly the first time, sometimes multiple times. Definitely, this is not an issue that we like. I've had some discussions with Apple Enterprise trying to resolve the issues, and right now we still don't have a course of action even directly from Apple. Okay? So we are working on these issues and trying to resolve it. However, that mail server, to bring it back up, right now we're just restarting. We've done a recent backup of some of the data in the event that it does not come back up, and we have to restore it to some other box. This system is actually on the newest hardware that we have that was purchased a couple of years ago, and Apple discontinued their server line a couple of years ago as well, so it's not like we can go buy a brand new box and just throw it over on there. Anything that we would purchase at this point in time from Apple to keep this mail server running would be used equipment. So what we need to do is really evaluate what's our next best course of action for the mail server. With the internet, there have been some Wi-Fi issues for the students, However, that was a design setup for how the students are managed from our servers to try and keep them under certain controls. They can't install applications. They can only visit certain websites. The design there was, unfortunately, we did not have a lot of time to test some of this stuff over the summer with everything that was going on. It looked like it was the right way to do it, and it failed. A new system has been put in place and has been tested, and the Wi-Fi is holding up. If we make a change, it's not being lost. So that was resolved after some testing and actual troubleshooting of why it was being lost for the students.
Is that at the schools that just were renovated, or is it all five schools that are having
That's
this
actually
issue?
just at Hauser with the upgrades that we did for the server software.
Okay.
It was required because of the new computers and the new software that's coming into this building. So it's only affecting Hauser. The elementary have not had this issue that I'm aware of because we're not using the same server type of software out of the elementaries.
Which is being demanded by Hauser's curriculum, or is it, what's
Well, we
creating
had
that
some
special demand?
upgrading servers this summer, and we went to following Apple's specific guidelines for this is how you should be going forward, and we've had some issues with that. And again, I've been on the phone with Apple Enterprise several times, and trying to work these problems out. And I have come up with solutions myself for certain things, and if we don't have it, you know, Apple's got their engineering department, their software development team working on some of these issues as well. So it's just something that happened due to some upgrades this summer, and trying to follow Apple's recommended plan of this is how you build and design your servers for a one-to-one environment.
And so for Hauser, we decided to follow the Apple recommended plan. Is that the expectation that we're going to follow that plan now with the other 4 schools? Or
I decided with the amount of work that I did this summer, I did not have time to implement that to the other buildings, and so we left them on previous software and previous design from Apple.
Okay.
And those seem to be working out. However, there will be certain things that are not available because we don't have the newer upgrades on the servers, but we're not having the same issues either with the newer software that we see here at the junior high.
Doesn't each day kind of present a new challenge?
I would say even when things are going well, each day always presents a new challenge. There's constantly changing things. There's so many different things that happen in the IT world, and especially with here in the junior high, 500 plus students with laptops. However, last year, you know, the beginning of the school year, we had a couple issues that we had to deal with, and after we got some of those things figured out, the school year rolled much more smoothly. Just unfortunately, a couple hiccups that happened at the beginning of the school year when we are presented with all these students, all these laptops all at one time, and I would say it's, you know, very taxing on our IT department when there is Vern Bettis, myself, doing all the infrastructure and hardware work, and then Paula Tusinot and Liz Whaley doing the instructional work. With all the equipment that we have, it's very taxing, especially with the remodel and trying to get all these rooms set up and ready to run for the teachers. I had to install all the projectors in the classrooms. It's hard to be able to do all this work and then all of a sudden deal with this new set of problems, this new set of problems.
I appreciate what you're saying and what you're doing for us, and I'm sure you're doing all you can. It's just, it's like there's an extra burden on you and the IT staff. And I think we need someone like Client First, maybe not a consultant, but somebody that's hands-on to come in and work in concert with Matt and Vern, maybe for 2 weeks, 2-week contract, troubleshoot get things fixed, find out how we can better operate, so each day doesn't present another challenge.
And I don't think that challenges are just the equipment that we have. I do believe it's that we have personnel issues too. I think the challenges we're facing is not just the devices. I also believe we have inventory challenges that I can't grab a hold of. I think we have devices that we've purchased that are not even being used. And I'm trying to work with this, and I think that's why we need Client First, because they have the resources and the people to go through our school, our district, and find out what we're utilizing and not utilizing, what kind of equipment we have. And also, I don't even know during the construction if the district dealt with a technology consultant as far as the infrastructure that was put into the schools. Do we even have the capacity to handle a technology program that we're going to focus on curriculum?
Let me just ask a question, going back to Mike's comment. We have a specific issue of the server going down. What has been the thought, since the administration has the ability to address a specific problem, which is day-to-day operations of equipment, what would be the recommendation to, operation of the servers, what would be the recommendation of the staff to deal with that specific issue, independent of this infrastructure assessment?
So, and I'm not sure if this answers your question, but an example today, which for me is frustrating because it's happening quite a bit, is I went to a school to meet with a teacher regarding RTI. She has done some incredible work in the area and was all set to show me some of the stuff that she's done. Couldn't get online. And her comment to me was, I've been doing this for half an hour, hoping that I could show you this stuff. She goes, but this happens all the time. And so the response to that is, right now, we have to move on to something else. She started to sketch out on paper some of the stuff that she'd been doing because she couldn't get, she couldn't get the copy that was in Google Docs. So more often than I would like to admit, plans have shut down. Things have stopped happening.
I guess I'm still trying to struggle with, is it even possible to address these concerns independent of a full infrastructure assessment?
I get your question,
I do.
and
I
I'm
agree.
not hearing that. I'm not hearing that there is an answer to your question about can we get past this, independent of that, just with a tactical solution. What I heard about the email situation is that we have a software for email that only runs on Apple hardware, which isn't even made anymore. And correct me if I'm wrong, but that's what I heard, and that's a non-starter going forward. We can't go forward with that. However, what do we migrate to? Whether we go to a service provider like a Gmail, Google, Google Enterprise, or some other cloud-based system, or get a new Microsoft system, or any in-house system, those are not things that we're going to want to just make a tactical decision on, because we're going to make an investment in that, and we got to live with it, and it better work if we're going to go to all that trouble. So that's the kind of thing that I think we're stuck. We're just going to have to band-aid this thing until we can get to that strategic point, and then that's where we should, hopefully get the outside assistance to make those kinds of decisions.
But I would like to see us use a Band-Aid that's going to help us out right away, and not relying on Matt to solve this tomorrow and the next day. I think
What is that?
I don't know. What is it?
It's.
I think it's someone like Client First coming in here and working with us right away.
I agree. I think we need to know what's wrong, and I think the longer we wait, I mean, we're already in the 5th year of a laptop program, and we're not even utilizing what we should be utilizing. E-books aren't even on the computers. We should be way ahead of where we're at now. I still feel like we're still at year 1. And I think we need, if we keep putting this off, we're just gonna set us behind even further. I mean, I've seen schools jump further than we did in less than 5 years.
I hear what you're saying, Randy. If we need some staff augmentation right now, I support that.
Well, listen,
I agree.
listen
It can be
what-
a client first, it could be Apple Care, it could be I don't care who.
Let's stay
I mean-
away from Apple, okay?
Well, unfortunately,
I don't
we're
think
married to
Yeah,
Apple
I
right
find
now.
it troubling that when Matt was talking that, Apple doesn't even know how to solve the problem. So I'm probably confused as ever.
And I think, to Matt's question and to what you're saying too, Michael, is I don't know if there was ever a clearly thoughtful vision and plan to say, here's the servers we're going to use and why. I think they were purchased because, we had Apple products, so we buy Apple server. I think we need to really thoughtfully figure out, what do we have? Is it meeting our needs? It sounds like it's not. So what are we going to do to address those needs? I think the first thing we have to do is, Brian gave a great example of a teacher showing how to use a program and it failed. Did she report that to help desk? How many help desk visits do we have? We don't have a system right now that documents what are the problems, how are they being addressed, who's fixing them, how long have they been down. We don't have that. That hasn't existed for 5 years. I think it's been set up, but it's never been utilized. I would like to see that go in place first so we can really determine where the areas of needs are, where the problems are, how do we fix them, how have they been fixed. Is it a user issue? Is it an operational issue? Is it a device issue?
Wouldn't that be helpful to the consultant when they come in to do the assessment? Here's our history of what's been happening over the
course.
past year and all. Here you go. Now,
But that still doesn't address the immediate question.
no, yeah,
I mean,
and that's
you're
my
back-
biggest my biggest
yeah,
concern.
we gotta do something immediate, and then we gotta do something midterm, and shoot for the long term.
I agree. Let's, how about this? What if we went to client first and we said, okay, what if we need something to address this issue now? What can you do? Not only client first, maybe get 2 or 3 more other vendors, find them and see what they propose, what are they offering, what can they do, and say, here's an issue, we have a server keeps going down. Because I think those are the kind of things they could probably tell us right away. And then we'll turn back around and look at the long-term planning and work from there.
So you're giving us the
Let's find it.
direction to say, okay, you have this much time or this much money to address this problem, and then give us a month and come back maybe at the November meeting after having someone for, let's just say, I'm just using Client First because they were here. Client First, you have X amount of hours. Their rate is $150 an hour, X amount of hours
Yeah.
to do this project. Here's our 3 needs, our 3 most important needs, and then at November 1st, we share those with you.
And if there is an action plan that can be developed with a consultant that you want to put in front of us, I would support having call an emergency meeting, because I think it's that important. Because if last week 9 servers went down during different times, I think that's unacceptable.
Well-
I can't. Our teachers, our staff cannot be working like this because it affects
Productivity.
productivity and the students.
I mean,
They're
that's the piece-
frustrated. They're absolutely
the productivity
frustrated. That's why
piece
we're
is-
coming to you.
is the piece we have to address, because if we're not being productive, we're not getting
We're
anywhere.
failing.
Yeah, I just wonder about ad hoc solutions, without it fitting in a total strategic plan. So how do we get to an action plan quicker?
We gotta get the car running so we can drive home tonight, sort of thing, before we can think about what fleet of vehicles we're gonna have in the future. I mean, so I would say hire someone like Client First or someone else and do it quickly. And maybe they work on an hourly basis with the goal of fixing our problem.
And see how they deal with our staff, with our administration. I mean, it's a kind of a test run. It's kind of like what we did with our board attorney. We had a specific tactical issue that we needed to deal with. They did it effectively. We said, hey, this is the kind of firm that we want. We looked at their whole, suite of services, and we said, this is who we want to continue a relationship with. And I think similarly, we could do so with client first or whoever, we choose for this
trial.
short term.
Just kind of, just bring back, we're in the new business portion of our agenda. This will not be something we'll be voting on.
Right.
I'm not sure there, is a board consensus on this, but I do like David's suggestion. If, taking this as a suggestion to the administration, if there is an action, plan, a trial basis, you could propose for a minute, and get client first on a trial basis for a very specific problem. I think we'd be supportive of that.
I don't think we can wait till another meeting to start addressing this. I think we need
Well,
to.
we have to do a special finance committee meeting
Well, that's
anyway, don't we, for the budget? Can we somehow call a special meeting and make it kind of tag them together so they're in the same evening, that we can address all these issues?
Just address that in the finance committee meeting
Yeah.
that evening.
You can direct us to do this now. I mean, you don't have to take action, you can direct us to do that, or we can come back to you at a recommendation saying, here's our plan.
Can you come back
At
with a
the finance-
recommendation, just say, talk to client first, talk to a couple other vendors, so we know how much, you say, somebody else who may know, there's gotta be other vendors out there that also have a similar reputation, that do, with the government, just say, you know what, we got an issue, how many hours would you need, how much you think it would cost, and let's go from there.
Well, Bob, I think, correct me if I'm wrong or I misunderstood. I think in one of our conversations, you mentioned you have been talking to a second.
We did.
And why don't you tell us a little bit about that?
The second committee, the second vendor that we met with was last week. It's ALIS, and they were real similar to doing a program evaluation. They would put together a list of questions. They would give those to our IT department. They would fill out that questionnaire and then identify, I think some of the questions are, what is your 5-year plan? What are your servers? What is your help desk request system? How many devices do you have? What are your inventory? Look at all those things and then say, what is your area of, immediate need? So it's a list of like 25 questions. So we interviewed them too. We did, once they look at those questions, then they'll come back to us with a proposal of how much time they will need to do something like this. So their hourly rate, was comparable between $1 and $125. Between 100 and 150, depending on which consultants they use. And I think Client First was the same thing, that a higher level consultant was 150, and then they had some for about 100 and 125, depending on who they would send out here. So they would bill us accordingly.
I got a sense from Client First that they're not just can do the 60-day project, but they can troubleshoot and they're hands-on as well. Am I correct in that?
They're doing hands-on.
They're doing
day-to-day
hands-on.
work
It-
for
I think they're a
the
full
village of
service
Riverside.
Right.
And
firm.
I did contact Peter Scalera. They did have an RFP. I just wanted, before they settled on them. But let me ask you a question. Is it possible just to ask them to come in and do some testing of a very specific list of problems? Of the server going down, not access to the internet, email going down, some very specific things that are hurting productivity now?
I think initially yes, we can ask them to do that. I think what I'd like them to do is probably meet with Matt, Vern, Zach, Brian, and myself, and then we can go through the list and then have them identify what are your maybe 2 or 3 need areas of priority and what can we address and how can we address it, and this is how much time it's going to take. So maybe if they sit down with us for a couple of hours and we identify, similar to what Matt just entailed, examples with Brian, examples with, we had phone issues. Why did those phone issues happen? What happened?
it.
Let's backtrack and find out why those phone issues were happening.
And you are keeping logs?
your 21 TQ group, get some more perspective from it.
That was going to be one of the things, depending on if we went in this direction to do an infrastructure analysis, we were going to meet with that group and say, because before, I think it was Rachel's questions to Tom, before, what comes first, the chicken or the egg? Before you can start teaching and really have instructional guidelines, you have to know that this is working. And so when I open this up and I put it out with 25 kids. It's got to be able to work and expect it to do what I expect it to do. So I think those are the kind of things I want to know first from staff, is if their device is working, are they able to get the resources that they need? And then, how are they using him, and what do they need support of?
You know, we spent $400,000, right, on new equipment. And it's not serving us very well. You know, it's probably not the equipment, but it's just the way the whole thing falls together. I think it would be worthwhile spending $20,000 or, you know, to get us to where the $400,000 is
Actually
benefiting.
Then we're actually using the equipment we
Right.
purchased.
Right.
It's actually a very good point.
It's a good point. It's a good point.
It's really good. I guess kind of to wrap this up, we know we need to, you know, you're gonna put together a plan to focus on specific productivity issues that are happening now, downtime, and move forward on it. She doesn't need our authorization, does,
Well, is she coming, are we coming back to the date of the finance committee meeting that's not set, but will be, I'm assuming, within the next 2-ish weeks? I just need to,
I think we're probably going to be honest with you. The plan that we presented last month is probably going to be the plan, because they're going to want to look at everything when they sit down and talk to us, because there's not one specific issue.
well, but
you know,
then
the
we need to
proposal.
have approval, and then we
Then
need to
the-
deal with the process of
the RFP.
RFP.
So if you'd like for us to put together an RFP, and I can work with the village on how they did it, we can post that, because that has to be posted. And then at the November finance meeting, we can select a vendor. Unless in the meantime you want me to, if
Well,
it's something immediate, we can interview, we can have client first come in, they can interview us, and then put together. But I just don't want to prolong it if you eventually want to have 3 vendors.
I think
to
you're
look at it.
prolonging it. I think
Well, why would it be, I mean, if pieces of it are broken and they can adjust those immediately,
Yeah.
and then they have an understanding, then part B is the
Right,
longer look,
right.
right? So maybe it's a short-term proposal to address the highest priority items that will increase productivity the fastest, whatever those are. I mean, I've heard what you said, but there's gotta be, the bucket list has to have a couple that are up there that say, gosh, if we could just make this happen every day, so no one would say, oh, it's down, it would be a
Right.
huge increase in productivity. Address those first, get them in there to deal with that, and then see if we like them. I mean, we have an opportunity to road test them, to your point, and then build on the second proposal, if that's where we wanna go. I mean,
I think there needs to be a short-term action plan to stabilize these servers. I mean, that goes right to the, you know, without the servers being up and running, productivity is non-existent.
right,
So,
and there's no
Teaching,
trust.
education is hindered.
so Bob, you can spend up to, what, $20,000? Is it
25.
$25,000? Okay. I would say, go at it. Hire somebody up to $25,000 to get us back on our feet. 'Cause I think that's really where we're at. I
But the
think-
audit itself, the assessment costs, the estimate for that is 20,000, right?
Right.
For the full assessment. Like I said, I just think, you know, I would like to wrap this discussion up in terms of where we're going with it. I don't think there's a total board agreement, but I think we all agree that we could put together a short-term action plan and see what and then try to move forward on it if you
And if
think it's
possible, we can
reasonable.
present it at the
Finance
interim
committee.
finance committee.
Finance committee.
So what we'll probably do is go back and call client first, identify, having a time for us to meet with him, identify what our areas of need are, and then come back to you at the finance committee with an action plan, maybe in the next
So
30
then
days.
we won't be doing any fixing for the next 2 weeks, right? The earliest that anything would be corrected
That
would
would-
be after the finance committee meeting in 2 weeks. So we're gonna stumble along for another 2 weeks, like we did last week? I mean, you comfortable with that?
No.
Well, you're not, so then we need a different approach.
Well, if you can put that together, I think, you know, if you
Or
want.
put it in a communication to us.
Or
It
We need
doesn't-
call a
we
special
need
meeting and
2
we'll
days.
just
We need
come.
2 days to establish a special meeting.
Why,
You know.
why do we need a special meeting? She's, you
I,
know,
I would
bound
like to
can-
know kind of what the game plan is before we authorize,
I-
you know, this pursuit. I mean.
You know what,
I
if you
underst-
could perhaps put an action plan together and then distribute it to us so that we can take a look at it and say, you know, I'd like to go forward with this now, but I'm gonna, as a courtesy, you know, here's, I agree, we wanna stabilize the servers, get everything done to get productivity now, but I am afraid a lot of it has to do with how the system hangs together. And
It's a systemic.
yeah,
Systemic, yes.
and
Good
so,
word.
and I don't want to take our focus off of developing an RFP to,
No, I
to
don't
do a
think
whole
anyone
thing.
does.
Assessment, yeah.
We've got long-term needs. We
Yeah.
got short-term needs too.
yeah, we have short-term needs, but I think the assessment will help us identify those. I mean, it's not, I don't think it's you know, what Client First or one of their competitors it's not gonna be totally strategic. A lot of it's gonna be operational.
Well, let's not call them short-term, let's call them immediate needs.
Immediate, or what I'm gonna call operational. You know, they're, how we work day to day with the needs we have now.
Maybe what we could do is put together an action plan of immediate needs and then share those with you and then show how we're gonna work on them for the next 2 weeks and then maybe come back with a longer-term plan at the finance committee, but have some time to work, whether it's Client First or, you know, who we feel comfortable with for 2 weeks. Like you said, try them out, see if we like them, and then have a long-term plan. They may just come in and say, here's what you need to do.
Give us an update. In 2 weeks, if you've accomplished the short-term immediate need, in 2 weeks, there should be an update, right? Did we succeed or did we not succeed in creating increased productivity by taking this short-term
Yeah.
fix?
And you've
I'm fine with that, yeah.
spent $5,000 or
Whatever.
$4,000 or whatever, you could report that.
Yes,
Yes.
Right.
All right. Sounds good.
okay.
Is there any other new business? All right, then,
I move,
well, before we do that, I just would like to announce the future meeting dates, especially since there are a few corrections on our agenda with dates. October 1, we will have the Education Committee meeting at 7 PM here. On October 15th, we have a busy day. We have rededication ceremonies at 4 and 5 for Blythe and Hollywood respectively. And then a policy committee meeting in the LRC right here at Hauser. And then again, our budget hearing and our regular business meeting starting at 7:30. And the corrected dates are the November 5th Finance Committee meeting. The agenda says the 4th, but it will be the 5th. The November 12th. We have booked Jeff Cohen for September 12th, November 12th, and that's again at 7 PM. And then corrections on the policy committee dates are the 19th and also the regular business meeting on the 19th as well.
In November.
In November, yes.
Okay.
And on that November 19th meeting, that will be the tax levy vote. Okay?
so November 12th with Jeff Cohen is an evening thing?
Yep, it's
It's a Tuesday.
day.
All evening.
All right, I guess now, can we call for a motion to,
Yes, I would like to move that we adjourn to closed session to discuss the appointment, employment, compensation, discipline, performance, or dismissal of specific employees of the district or legal counsel for the district, including hearing testimony on a complaint lodged against an employee or against legal counsel for the district to determine its validity.
second? And then can we have just a voice vote?
All in favor?
Thank you. Let's adjourn to closed session, or